Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is part 1 of our story. If you like this what if story and want to see part 2, let me know in the comments below. Before we start, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, check the description for more great content and my playlist. This story was posted by Myacademiahero on Wattpad. Now let's start. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, go take a swan dive off the roof of a building for all I care. Maybe you'll have a quirk in your next life. Kaken spat while his 2 friends laughed down upon me. He makes a t sound before walking out the classroom with his buddies following suit after giving me a kick to the stomach. I sniffle, wiping the tears that had trickled down my cheeks, and got up while picking the stuff Kaken dumped out of my bag off the floor. I slowly exit the school doors and make my way to the fountain where my notebook lies in. I pick it up with 2 fingers, staring at it in disgust. Why am I even trying? I whisper to myself, and threw the notebook in the trash. That notebook was filled with information I analyzed from every hero I know. I wanted to be a hero, still do. But I can't without a quirk. On my 4th birthday I was diagnosed quirkless. It's pretty rare, with only 20% of the world being quirkless, so I'm just that lucky. Peep the sarcasm. 2 While walking home I decided to take the shortcut way. Little did I know that I was going to meet my idol who's going to shatter the last hope I had of becoming a hero. No, you can't become a hero without a quirk, sorry kid. 3 My idol All Might, not even 30 minutes ago told me that I couldn't be a hero without a quirk. He proceeded to leave me on a roof after my childhood friend told me to take a swan dive off of one. I stood on the edge of the roof and looked down. It's pretty windy. I put my hands out and closed my eyes, scooting a little closer to the edge. I'm not worried about falling. The breeze brushing past my face felt nice, but I wish it was pushing me forward instead of back. I took a deep breath and thought about my parents. I knew they would be devastated if they lost me. Shouldn't be here wishing for death. I sighed, taking a shaky step off the edge. I should get home to Mama before she gets worried. Later, 𝗧𝗵𝗲, baby, is that you? I hear Mama shout from the kitchen. Yeah, Mama. I reply boringly. Come here, I have news. She yells with excitement. I sigh and make my way into the kitchen. What is it? I ask, sitting on the stool as she turns to me with a sad smile. I found a job that pays really well, she says timidly, while rubbing the nape of her neck. Really? That's good, I exclaimed before she slowly nods. It is, but it's out in America. We're going to have to move, she says in almost a whisper. Wait, what? My eyes widen in shock. We'll be moving to America Friday morning. I talked to your father and we'll be staying with him. She briefly explains nervously. Friday was only 2 days away. Oh, was all I replied with. I'm sorry for telling you in such short notice, Izu, but I didn't really know how to. It's fine, Mama, I said with a smile. It'll give you enough time to say goodbye to your friends. We can throw a going-away party for you, she said happily. I quickly shake my head with my hands up. Oh, and no need really. I don't really have any, so no need, I replied hurriedly, and she tilts her head. Well, you have Katsuki. You guys can have a sleepover before we leave, she suggests. I immediately shut that down. No, Mom. We aren't friends, I say with a frown, and her eyes widen before giving me a understanding smile. Oh, I'm sorry, baby, she said softly before pulling me into a hug. You'll make some friends out in America, I'm sure of it, she says when I hug her back. Maybe. 3 days later. Hey, champ, my dad exclaims as I grab my bags out the taxi. Dad, I say, walking towards him. Long time no see. I smile as he pulls me into a hug. It's been 3 years since I saw him. 2, I'm sorry, buddy, I've been busy, he says, pulling away from me with a sad smile. 1, yeah, I know being a pro can take up a lot of your time, I get it. I give him a reassuring smile. I look behind me to see what he was looking at when he didn't respond. My parents got divorced a few years ago because of the long distance. I stayed with Mom because Dad wouldn't be home much anyway, and it's dangerous being quirkless and living with a pro hero. I can tell my parents are still in love, but they think they made the right decision. The look Dad is giving my mama screams, I am so in love. I hope that they get back together with us staying here. Hisashi, Mom says with a warm smile as Dad grabs her bags. Coco, Dad smirks and Mom rolls her eyes. Still with that ridiculous nickname. She raised an eyebrow playfully. Course, love. Oh, for the love of, I clear my throat and nod to the front door. Dad chuckles and opens it for us. Did I forget to mention that this place is huge? Oh, did you change the place? I exclaimed, quickly taking my shoes off and running to look around. Yep. You like? He asks, using his foot to shut the door behind him. Yeah. I sassed and ran upstairs. Your room is the third door to the right. He shouts from downstairs. Thanks. I reply quickly before throwing the door open. My room is of course All Might themed. I put my stuff down and started taking posters off the wall, careful not to ruin them. I could sell these. I was starting to put All Might figurines in a box when I heard a knock on the door. I turned to see my dad leaning against the doorway with a sad smile. Not a fan anymore? He asked, and I shook my head and continued to box the figurines. What happened? He asked, folding the All Might bedsheets. He told me I couldn't be a hero without a quirk. I sighed. That idiot. Dad mumbles under his breath, but I still heard it. You know it's my dream to become a hero. Quirkless or not. I said, frowning. I know, champ, and you still can. He says. I stopped boxing and turned my head to him. What? But All Might dash, isn't but. He can't say he when dash, he pauses. I'll go get different blankets from the hallway closet. He says before standing up and walking out the room. For when he what? 6 after Dad came back with black and green bed spread, we finished boxing up the All Might merchandise. I was planning on selling them but decided to donate instead. Tomorrow is going to be my first day at Narwin Middle School. Dad wants me to homeschool and train with him during the day. I mean, if I want to become a hero, I have to know how to defend myself. I have to work hard if I want to achieve my goal, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. 5 months later. I was sitting at my desk studying when I heard a knock and my door creak open. Midoriya, your father would like to see you. 𝗧𝗓, our housemaid, said softly. Okay. I reply before sitting my pencil down and pushing off my Raleigh chair. I knock on his office door and opened it after hearing, Come in. You need me? I questioned, before sitting in the chair across from him. He nods. Yes, you've improved so much, not only in your fighting skill but in your academics too. He pauses. I was talking with one of my good friends from Japan. He'll be coming to New York for a few days and he's impressed with your skills. -1. I'm not going back out there. I blurt and he holds his hand up. Let me finish. No, you aren't going back to Japan anytime soon. What I'm trying to say that he has an enchantment quirk, and I want to know if you would like to learn how to handle a certain weapon and get it enchanted. He explains and my eyes widen. Hell yeah! I exclaimed and he chuckles. Thought so. Do you know what you'd like to learn in the meantime? Remember, you need to know how to use it by the time he gets. He says sternly. How long do I have? I question. 10 months. He said and a smirk reaches my lips. 1, that's more than enough time. I said. Are you sure, Izuku? That thing is bigger than me. Dad exclaims as I trace my fingers on the cold metal. 15, this is perfect. I said and he sighs. Fine, I called someone to help you train. Do your best, son. I'll be back later to get you. Dad says, patting my shoulder. I smile down at my scythe. 8 for the past 10 months I spend getting over my shyness and boosting my confidence. I'm not going to let anybody walk all over me because of something I can't control. 1, I'm going to become the first Quirkless #1 pro hero and look good while doing it. I'll make sure that all the Quirkless out there knows that it is possible to achieve your dreams without a stupid power. My name is Izuku Midoriya, and this is the first step into my journey to becoming the first Quirkless #1 hero. 10 months later, Izuku Midoriya is it? I'm Kai Sato. Sato held his hand out for me to shake. 1, it's nice to meet you, I smile, holding my scythe over my shoulder. May I see that? He asks and I nod, handing it to him. He inspects it before shrugging and throwing it behind him. I have a better one. he said before opening a giant suitcase. I look inside of it and gasp. It was a scythe twice as big than the one I had. It was black with green lightning starting from the handle to the blade. It was appealing. I was aching to touch it. Go ahead. Once your fingers touch it, it will respond to you and only you. I guess you could say that it will automatically trust you. Sato briefly explained as I pick it up. Good thing for all that weightlifting. Dad joked and I completely ignored him, hypnotized by the beauty in front of me. As soon as I touch it, green lightning sparks through it. What does it do? I ask Sato, not taking my eyes off the scythe. This is your ultimate weapon. It controls fire. Go on and try to use it, he says, and my dad steps back. 𝗕𝗁𝗵𝗄, I smirk slyly and swung it at the wall in front of me. I watch as green fire erupts and covers the walls. As I lowered the scythe beside me, the fire died down. Cool. You could also summon it. But for now, say, 𝗕𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗲 come to me. You could say it in your head or out loud, and once you learn how to fully control it, you'll be able to summon it whether you say the words or not. When you don't need it anymore, well, it'll go away. But don't worry, it's still with you. He explains, and I almost began to shed tears. Thank you so much. I say, smiling happily, tears in my eyes. You're welcome, you've been working so hard. You deserve it, kid, you will definitely achieve your dreams. I know it, he says as I wipe a tear that had fallen. After crying some more, I began learning how to properly control my upgraded weapon. When I got home and showed Mom 𝗕𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗲, she may or may not have passed out. But it's okay. I also got to know Kai until he left back to Japan. He also mentioned that UA, the most prestigious hero school in Japan, wanted to meet me and see that if I wanted to attend their school, but I'm set on not going back out there, and I definitely don't want to be there if that's where Katsuki is attending. It's been 2 weeks and today is Sunday, the day before my first day at BNHA. I guess I'm sort of nervous. I mean, I haven't been to school in a whole year. I can't wait until people find out that I'm Quirkless attending such a prestigious school. I wonder if they'll try and make fun of me like people from my old school did. I got a good handle on 𝗕𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗲. All I had to do was practice controlling its power, which I got the hang of pretty quickly. I can't wait to whack people with her. Izuku, come down here please. I hear Ma hollered from downstairs. I scramble out of bed and make my way downstairs. What's up, Ma? I just want to know your thoughts. You know that people might be nicer out here than in Japan I interrupt her. It's okay, Ma, I'm not worried. I reassured, and she smiled sheepishly before tears began to run down her cheeks. I walk up to her and wrap my arms around her. My baby's all grown up. She cried as I rubbed her back. Stop crying or you'll make me cry, I said as tears started to well up in my eyes. She pulls away and wipes her tears. Sorry, she chuckles and someone clears their throat. Why wasn't I invited to the crying party? Dad asks while walking to Mom and kissing her head. Did I forget to mention that they got back together and Ma is almost 9 months 𝗵 12 because we didn't want to, I stated, tilting my head, and Ma slaps my shoulder. I'm sorry, I laugh. You should get some rest, Izu. Tomorrow's your first big day. Dad said sternly, and I nod. And I mean it. Don't stay up setting your room on fire again. He finishes and I roll my eyes. Yeah, whatever, I muttered before trudging upstairs. I shut and lock my door and flop back onto my bed before summoning 𝗕𝗂𝘁𝗵𝗲. I trace my fingers along the green linings before making it disappear. I dim my lights and got under my blanket. I feel like tomorrow will be an eventful day, I thought before drifting off to sleep. The next morning I woken by the sound of my alarm blaring and the sun's bright light pouring through the window, illuminating my bedroom. I throw my phone across the room and groan while groggily rubbing my eyes. I should have asked to continue online school. I take a shower before changing into black jeans, a green shirt, and my red sneakers. I drape my yellow backpack over my shoulder and slipped my glasses on. I ran out of contacts. I messed with my hair a bit before leaving my room. I jogged downstairs and met with Ma, who was making breakfast, and Dad, who was reading the newspaper. Morning, Ma. I kiss her cheek. Dad? I deadpan and he rolls his eyes. What? I don't get a kiss. He joked. I scrunch my nose. No. I say, popping a piece of bacon in my mouth. Oh, I'm out? I exclaimed. Wait, you haven't had breakfast? Ma said as I make my way to the front door. I don't eat breakfast like that anymore, and plus, I had some bacon. Love you guys, bye. I holler, closing the door behind me. Since I live close to BNHA, I can walk there instead of catching a ride, and quite frankly it's not that bad. I finally make it to the front of the school, and before I even make it to the stairs, someone rams into me from the back, making me stumble forward. I quickly turn and caught the person before they could fall. Are you okay? I asked, looking down at the girl. She has dark skin, black eyes with 3 scars on the left one, and shoulder-length black curly hair. To Ella. We told you to be careful. Ha. Told you she'd bump into someone. I help Ella up and turn to the voices in the distance. Stop it, guys, I didn't mean to. She pouts. You better not have broken my skateboard, love. A guy with black hair and green eyes muttered. He had a black lip piercing, 2 silver stud eyebrow piercings, and multiple ear piercings. If you did, that would have been hilarious. A girl that looked similar to the guys laughed before blowing a pink bubble. On the right side of her nose she had a black ring piercing and a green ring piercing on her right eyebrow. She had long black hair. As who I'm going to guess are twins began to bicker, I took my time to analyze the other 2 people who seemed to just be listening in on the conversation. Well, one, a boy with shiny brown hair and piercing yellow gold eyes, was typing away on his phone, ignoring those around him. I think that his quirk may have something to do with felines, judging by his face. I looked to the girl. She was staring me down. Okay, 2 can play at this game. She had long white hair and icy blue eyes. She had a lip piercing, nose piercing, eyebrow piercing, and ear piercings. That's a lot of piercings. What's your name? She spoke up. Izuku Midoriya, I reply. Sorry for bumping into you, Izuku. I'm Eleanor. Eleanor said, excitedly grabbing my hand and frantically shaking it. I was taken aback by the use of my first name being used by people other than my family. I forgot that they call you by your first name in America. I'm Jonah, and this is my twin sister Jackie. Jonah said, and Jackie blew a bubble, giving me a blank look. And that over there is Hayes. Hayes, say hi. Eleanor pokes him and he glared at her before looking back down at his phone. Hi, he said, not giving me single glance. I'm Ivy. Nice to meet you, Midoriya. Ivy said. I smirked. So she knows her stuff. The bell rang. Where's your class? Where's your class? We're all in class 3, plus wow, she's such a hyper person. I'm in class 3A2. I reply and she squeals. Sorry, you're stuck with us now. Jackie shrugged. I don't think I mind. Izuku's POV, it's lunchtime and I was sitting with Ivy, Jackie, Jonah, Hayes, and Eleanor. So far this school isn't that bad. All we did today was go to homeroom and orientation. They told us about the school and whatnot. So Izu, what's your quirk? Eleanor asked, bouncing in her seat. Oh, I don't have one. I replied, taking my noodles into my mouth. When I didn't hear a response, I peer up to see them staring at me. Whatifdekufanfic. Eleanor squealed and I flinched back, my eyes widened. This is going to take some getting used to. That's so cool and rare. So you fight, Quirkless? I do too. All I can do is manipulate emotions. She exclaims. It's not all flashy, but it helps when the time comes, she said sheepishly, and Jonah draped his arm over her shoulder and kissed her head. They're so cute. Mine is shapeshift. I can turn into any animal, Jonah said. He can turn into any feline. Eleanor pointed to Hayes, who was too caught up in his phone. I can blow huge bubbles with my gum and capture people. If they pop it, they turn into a sticky mess. Jackie shrugs. 3. I turn to Ivy. Ivy's quirk is so powerful. Tell him. Tell him. Eleanor cheered and Ivy threw away her finished apple. I can control the 4 elements. Fire, water, air, and earth. She says. My eyes widen. 3. That's so cool. I exclaimed. She shrugged. Yeah, and what about you? How do you fight, Quirkless? Like, do you have a support weapon or something? She asked, and everyone's attention turned to me, even Hayes. I smirked and nodded to the door while getting up. They looked at each other with confused looks before following me outside the cafeteria. This classroom was abandoned years ago, Eleanor said. How'd you know that? Jackie turned to her and Eleanor shrugged. Overheard it from some seniors. I walked to the front of the classroom and turned to them. They watched intently. I hold my hand out to my side. Deku-who-editing, succumb to me. I whispered, and black bubbly smoke covers my hand and extended to the shape of my scythe. I hear them gasp when I start to twirl it around me. I swipe it at a desk and watch as up erupts into flames. I lower my scythe and the fire goes out. I look up to the group of 5 and they stare at me dumbfounded. That was dope as F. 1. Can I try? Where'd you get that from? Is it enchanted? DMN. 2. I chuckle as Deku-who-editing went away. I walk up to the group and sat on top of a desk in front of them. Yes, it's enchanted. My dad has a friend with a enchantment quirk and he hooked me up. It only responds to me and only me, no one else. Only I can summon and touch it. I explained. That's so cool. You're so cool, Izuku. Eleanor exclaimed. Who's your dad? Is he a hero? Jonah questioned and I nodded. Yeah, you know the pro dragon. I shyly said and their jaw dropped. Yeah. He's you father. He has a son. Yeah, but you can't tell anyone, okay? I said waving my hands and they all nodded. We stayed in the classroom and talked for a while, getting to know each other. And since no one ever comes in this classroom, we decided to make it our hangout spot. When the bell rang, we went to class. I talked with some of my other classmates and they seemed pretty cool. They didn't make fun of me because I was quirkless, they all actually thought it was cool because of how rare it is. All I have to say is that people in America are much nicer than Japan. Hey Midoriya, every day after school we go chill at 𝗧𝗵𝗲 Skate Diner. Do you want to come? Ivy asked and Eleanor piped in. Yeah. They also have free roller skating there, you should come. Yes, sure, I have to tell my parents first. I said. We'll meet up after school, girls get ready at mine and boys at Izuku's. Eleanor cheered. What? I stammer and mentally slap myself for it. Yep. Bro, can I pierce your ears? Jonah asked and Jackie shoved him away, making him lose his balance. She moves my green curls up and uses her index fingers to tilt my head up. You should let me give you a eyebrow slit. She said. Ivy drapes her arm around my shoulder and pulls me towards her. Guys, leave the poor boy alone. She rolled her eyes as the twins huffed. It's all right, I could go for a change. I blurt. Really? Good, because this plain look isn't giving. It's giving boring. 1 DMN. 7 Ivy sighed and turned to me. You sure? You don't have to change yourself for them. She reassured and I nodded. Actually, I can go for a little change. But maybe not the eyebrow slit and piercings, that seems a little much right now. I smile, rubbing the nape of my neck. Let me go shopping for you. Please, please. Eleanor begged and I chuckled. Okay, but don't go overboard please. I smiled and she nodded. I'll go with her to be sure of it, 𝗧𝗓𝗏 said. Let's go now. She cheered. We still have one class, 𝗓𝗏. 𝗧𝗓𝗏 was dragged off down the hall as the bell rang. I guess they're skipping. Let's go to our last class before heading to my place. Jonah said and I nodded. 2 hours later, my mom is going to pass out when she sees me. I said while looking at myself in the mirror. It's not much though. Jackie shrugged. You pierced my ears. I shouted. They're just ears. I could have did your tongue if you didn't say no. She shrugged, I groaned. My mom would have killed me if I came back with a tongue piercing. I mumbled. How do you like your new look? Jonah smirked. The twins pierced my ears and Ivy wanted to give me an eyebrow slit, but I politely declined. But she did give me a undercut and dyed my roots black. 2, I like it. I reply. Jackie handed me big silver rings. Thanks, I said, slipping the rings on. Do you like karaoke? Jackie asks. I smile and nodded. Yeah, I think it's fun. I am back. I turn my head to see Eleanor skipping to me, and a tired-looking 𝗧𝗓𝗏 holding multiple bags. You look so appealing. She screeched and I blushed. She then runs back to the bags and pulled out some clothes. Go change. She said. Okay. I take the clothes and walk out the bathroom and into Jonah's room. I look at the clothes she handed me. I'm wearing a tight white shirt that showed off my muscles, arms and abs, black baggy jeans, and white sneakers. I walk out the bathroom and everyone looks shocked. What is change? Jackie stated, popping her gum. I knew you had muscles. Eleanor geeked, clapping her hands together. You look so good, Izu. How long have you been hiding that for? She questioned. 5 months, I responded, walking towards them. Come on, I still need to put the finishing touches. Eleanor said, taking my hand and dragged me into the room. I stumbled in the room and then was pulled down onto a chair. We know, by the way. It was kinda obvious. Ivy chuckled while putting a silver chain around my neck. Are they trying to make me look like AF boy? 3, know what? I questioned, tilting my head. Eleanor giggled. We saw you checking out Hayes earlier, Eleanor whispered to me. My eyes widened as I felt my cheeks flush. Don't worry, your secret is safe with us, she winked. Ivy nodded. Plus, the others wouldn't judge, she assured. I nodded. You're going to be so hot when we're done. Jackie grinned while painting my nails. Can you guess what color? 9, let me do the lip gloss. Know me. Know me. I laughed as Hayes and Jonah Play fought for the lip gloss with high-pitched voices. We don't act like that, idiots. Jackie snatched the lip gloss and tossed it on the bed. The boys chuckled. She walked up to me and began to work her magic. I feel something wrap around my ankle, and when I try to look down, Jackie slapped the back of my head. I tense and glare at her. Done. She shouted and dragged me in front of a mirror. Wow, I look different. I touched my hair and noticed that it was soft and a bit wet. Eleanor smiled cheekily. Your hair needed a little touch-up from that rat's nest you had on your head, she said. I shot her a look. Demon Eleanor, Jackie chuckled. She shrugged. I'll give you a list of moisturizers and stuff to buy to keep your hair nice and healthy, she says. I smile. Thank you, I love it, I stated happily, not able to bring my eyes off my new looks. Good, you like it now to the rink. She claps her hands together and dragged me out the room as everyone laughed at her actions. Today was actually the most fun I had in a while. When we got there, people came up to me, both boys and girls, and asked for my number. Eleanor taught me how to skate and the others laughed when I fell. They introduced me to all types of foods the diner had, and it was delicious. I like these guys a lot. They're like the siblings I never had. Well, almost, because Ma is carrying my baby sister or brother. We all decided to wait until she gives birth to find out the gender. When I got home, I internally freaked out because Dad met me at the door. But he told me he liked my look. But when my ma saw me, she passed out after seeing my piercings and dyed hair. I talked to her when she woke up and she told me that she loves my new and was a bit shocked. After we shared a family hug and they said that they wanted to meet my new friends. A few weeks later they did. And let's just say that I think they love them more than me. They absolutely adored them. I also found out that the twins and Ivy grew up in the same orphanage together, and when the twins turned 10, Ivy 11, they were all adopted together. Plus, if you told me a few years ago that I'd move to America, meet these amazing people who'd actually like me for me, I'd call you crazy. But right now I couldn't be happier and wouldn't change anything that happened for the world. I just hoped that things would stay this way forever. One Izuku's POV 3.5 years later, he's 17, Zuzu. Zuzu, wake up. It's been almost 4 whole years since I've lived in America. And let's just say a lot has happened. I have a 3-year-old little sister named Izumi. Later, after Ma gave birth to her and Dad remarried, I got my hero's license and made a name for myself. I decided Aki for my hero name. A lot of people question why I chose that name. I guess they'll never know. I created a name for myself when one night I patrolled with Dad and we came across a villain. It had a sleeping quirk of some sort. I still don't know what it was. But all I know is that it's similar to when Sleeping Beauty pricked herself with the magical needle, making her fall into an almost never-ending slumber. Well, that villain was shooting needles from his finger, and when one hit Dad, he said he felt sleepy and passed out, leaving it up to me to stall until other pros showed up. But it didn't take long for me to take him out with the help of my scythe. I'm up, Izzy, I say groggily, stretching. Ivy, Jackie, Joe, Ellie, and Hazy are here. She giggled loudly, pulling on the blanket on top of me. All right. I groaned before sitting up. Izumi pulled and tugged on my covers trying to get on the bed. I chuckled before picking her up and sitting her on my lap. She wrapped her arms around my torso. This was our every morning routine before I got up for school. She would get her morning cuddles in before I leave for the day. On the weekends, she'd wake up early and wake me up to cuddle her and fall asleep again. After a few moments, I stand up with her in my arms, put my glasses on, and walk to my bathroom while stifling a yawn. I sit her on the counter and began to brush my teeth and wash my face. I walk back to my room to pick out an outfit. I decided on an oversized white tee, red sweatpants, and white high-top Converse. I put a silver ring on my pointer finger that had chipped black nail polish on it, and I do my daily morning hair routine that Eleanor taught me years ago. She helped me take care of my hair and brought my curls back to life. I get my curls from my dad's side of the family. He is half Japanese and half African American, so we get it from my nana's side. When I was done, I turned to the bathroom to see the door shut closed. I walked up to it. "Izzy, what are you doing?" I questioned. You should never leave a toddler in the bathroom unattended, especially if they're quiet. The last time I left that girl in there unattended, she got into all of my skincare. $250 worth of good product wasted. "I'm going potty," she shouted, and I hummed in response. I walked to my dresser and pick up my car keys, opening my drawer and pulling out 2 lollipops. I hear the water run for a few seconds before it turned off and the door opened, revealing Izumi. She ran up to me as I unwrapped the lollipop, handing it to her before unwrapping mine and plopping it into my mouth. "Let's go." I take her hand and draped my yellow backpack over my shoulder before flicking the lights off. "Took you long enough," Jonah said with a groan. "You think it takes 5 seconds to look this good?" I questioned with an eyebrow raised, and he chuckles in response while shaking his head. "Umi!" Eleanor exclaimed, making Izumi giggle and run to her. "Your sister loves her more than her own brother," Jackie snorted, and I roll my eyes. "Izuku, please don't tell me you gave her that lollipop this early in the morning." I hear Ma groan. I walk into the living room. "Oops," I say, innocently walking up to her. "Morning, Ma," I say, leaning down to kiss her temple. She huffed, shaking her head playfully. "Here are your lunches." She handed me a bento. "Have a great day." I leaned over once again so she can kiss my cheek. Everyone saw and ran up to her. "I want some sugar too. Move, Izuku." Jonah shoved me out the way and turned his head, pointing to his cheek at Ma. She giggled and kissed his cheek before Ma handed him a bento. Then Jackie, Ivy, Hayes, Eleanor, and Izumi without the bento since she doesn't start preschool until next year. Ma placed Izumi on her hip and walked us to the front. We waved them goodbye and piled inside my Jeep Wrangler. We made it to school and walked down the halls as everyone stared at us. I used to hate the stairs when I walked with them the first time, but got used to it and later started to enjoy it. Hayes had one hand in his pockets while scrolling away on his phone with the other. Eleanor skipped happily with her hand entwined with Jonah's as he looks down at her with his eyes filled with admiration. Ivy glared at everybody who dared look her in the eyes. Jackie stared straight ahead, obnoxiously chewing her gum and blowing bubbles bigger than her head, and I had my arm draped over Ivy's shoulder while swaying my hips confidently with a smirk plastered on my face. I opened the door to the squad classroom and shutting the door behind me. "So tonight," Eleanor started, clapping her hands together. "Shake and skate, bring Izumi too. I wanna finally teach her how to skate," Eleanor exclaimed. "Oh yeah, she's been begging me to take her," I said. "I'm down, I have nothing better to do," Jonah shrugged and Jackie scoffed. "Let's face it, we all have nothing to do, and this is probably the last time we'll be able to spend together until we start hero work again soon," Jackie said before blowing a bubble. "Yeah, hate to admit but I'll miss you guys," Ivy said, and Jackie chuckled. "Yeah, we won't have much time for each other like we used to," Eleanor whined, sitting on Jonah's lap as he wrapped his arms around her waist and rested his forehead on her shoulder, nodding. "I want what they have." "I think you guys are over-exaggerating. We'll always have time for each other," I said happily, but everyone still had sad looks. "At least we'll be achieving our dreams," I added, and every began to slowly nod. "Oh stop, Hayes, you love your phone more than us." Jackie pouted, throwing her chewed gum at him, which he swiftly dodged without looking, and it landed in the trash. Whoa, that was sick, Jonah exclaimed. "Mph." Jackie poked him and he swatted her hand away with a glare. He put his phone in his pocket and turned into a small cat and hissed at her before climbing on me and making himself comfortable on my soft curls. I picked his jacket up and slid it on before flicking the hood over my head to cover him. I could tell he was already asleep. "Oh, just date already," Eleanor yelled. I rolled my eyes. They've been shipping Hayes and I since sophomore year when he saved me from drowning in the pool. Yeah, I couldn't swim. After that he spent the entire summer teaching me how to swim, and yes, some feelings did start to happen. We were each other's first, but we never dated. We hooked up a few times but decided to stop and remain friends. We didn't want to ruin our friendship, even though it was already kind of ruined. I think it was ruined the moment we had SEC that one night. 5 but neither of us spoke about it. It's like we silently agreed to not talk about it. We do talk like normal around everyone else, but sometimes it gets awkward when we're alone. We started up a random conversation before the bell rang. We groaned and got up from the desks, Hayes still fast asleep on my head. We entered the classroom and the bell again rang, signaling the late bell. We were on time for once. All eyes were on us as we sat in our designated seats before Ms. Honey entered the class and took attendance. Marisol. Here. Jackie. Ms. Honey glanced up from her clipboard to see Jackie staring her down as she loudly chewed her gum before looking back down. Jonah. Sup, Ivy. Absent. 2, Izuku. Present. Ace. Ms. Honey looked up at his seat to see it empty, and then she looked at me as I pointed to my head, revealing a sleeping orange and yellow cat. She nodded and looked back down at her clip and continued taking roll before starting the lesson. We didn't really do much in class other than train and learn about the importance of becoming a pro. I was able to patrol with Dad for a bit and take down low-life criminals and stop drunk drivers and stuff like that. At home, Mommy, I'm home, Jonah shouted, slamming the front door open. I hear Ma holler for Izumi to stop running in the house as her loud, tiny footsteps rang throughout the house. She yelled with her hands out to him. My favorite little green bean. He picks her up and twirls her around before enveloping her in a hug. When Eleanor walked through the door, he held Izumi's head to his chest and glared at her. Don't word. And let me have my moment, you witch. He sneered as Eleanor rolled her eyes at his words. As you could probably tell, Eleanor is Izumi's #1 favorite. She never leaves her side when she's around, meaning no one could pick her up other than her. So for her run to Jonah is a big thing for him since she rarely did that. We all, and when I mean by all I mean Jackie, Ivy, Hayes, Eleanor, and I snuck to my bedroom letting Jonah have his moment with Izumi and play with her before she ditched him for Eleanor. I'll never get over how soft your bed is, Ivy said before belly flopping on it. I know, right? It's like a big cloud, Jackie added, laying down and closing her eyes. Well, that didn't last long after Eleanor jumped on her stomach, making her gasp for air and sit up. Hayes made his seat on my green beanbag, his eyes never leaving his phone. I sat down on my spinny chair and rolled my eyes at their dramatics. After several minutes of silence, Jonah entered in the room with a grin on his face with Izumi in hand. I can go skating with you guys, she asked excitedly. Yes, but you gotta ask Mama, I said sternly, and she nodded frantically before running out the room shouting for her. Ha, she loves me more than you, Jonah teased, pointing at his girlfriend. We all know that the only reason why she came up here is because she was looking for me, Eleanor said, raising an eyebrow, and Jonah scoffed. Whatever, he mumbled before laying beside her and pulling her to his chest. They've been dating for 4 years now. A few minutes later, an out-of-breath Izumi comes bursting through the doors. She said yes. Mama said yes. Come on, Zuzu, help me pick out an outfit, she exclaims before dragging me out the room with everyone else slowly following behind us. After what it felt like an eternity, Izumi settled with a pink skirt, plain white shirt, and white sandals. Eleanor brushed her hair into 2 ponytails while Jackie painted her nails pink and Ivy put a bracelet and strawberry lip balm on her. Izumi wanted to go all out on her first day of going roller skating. I changed out of my red sweats into green ones so I can match with my roller skates. When we got to the rink, we changed into our skates. Mine were green, Ivy's were blue, Eleanor's were purple, Jackie's were black, Jonah's were gray, and Hayes's were yellow. Aw, I don't have pretty skates. Izumi pouted slightly. Hayes walked up to her with a blank look and his hands behind his back. Izumi looked at him slightly scared. I mean, I don't blame her, he did look scary, especially since he never smiles and always has a scowl on his face. Held a hand in front of her, reveals small pink skates. Her face lit up. Thank you so much, Hazy, she exclaimed before hugging his legs tightly. He smiled down at her. Wow, he actually smiled. We watched in awe as he took her hand and sat her on a booth, helping her put her new skates on. He held them up as she proudly tied them. What can I say? My baby sis is smart for a 3-year-old. He helped her stand up as she stumbled a bit, holding on to his hands tightly in hers. She looked up and smiled proudly as she started to get the hang of it. She held a hand out for me as Hayes hesitantly let go of her, letting me catch her before she fell. Watch me, Izzy, Eleanor said before giving an example to Izumi of how to skate properly. She tried to copy but almost fell in process. She huffed, annoyed. It's okay, you'll get the hang of it, Bug, Jonah said. My phone began to ring and I pull it out of my pocket as my dad's contact flashed. Scrawny old man is calling. I chuckle at the nickname I've given him and handed Izumi off to Eleanor, and they all made their way to the skating floor. Hello, I shouted over the loud music while making my way to the bathroom. Hey Izu, just wanted to let you know I'm heading on patrol, he said. Have fun fighting evil, old man, I joked, and I can practically hear his eye roll. Yeah, whatever son, I love you, goodbye, he said. Goodbye, I love you too, I said and hung up. Every night before Dad went on patrol, he'd call me and Ma to tell us when he's about to go out and that he loved us. After a fight that almost killed him, we decided before patrols we'd say our I love yous and goodbyes just in case we never got the chance to. I know it's sad, but that's just the way things are. I shoved my phone back into my pocket and skate to my friends who were helping a struggling Izumi. After about an hour of skating, we decided to get milkshakes. We sat in a booth filled with laughs and jokes. Izumi had gotten the hang of skating and wanted to go out again when we were finished eating. Ivy was sitting next to Jonah, who had Eleanor on his lap since there was no space, and Izumi on my lap with Jackie and Hayes beside us. Jonah and Izumi were challenging to see who could make the most bubbles out of chocolate milk. We had to order it since Jonah stupidly decided to start a challenge with her. Can't believe he's losing to a 3-year-old. Plus, as we're cheering on Izumi and laughing at Jonah for losing, there was a loud crash and the place was soon filled with smoke and dust. What the F? Izuku's POV. Ivy used her air quirk to quickly clear out the air and turned to see the skating floor files with RBB from a giant monster-type thing laying on it. What the actual F is that? It soon got up and ran somewhere. I cursed under my breath as scream filled the place and people running in all directions. I turned Izumi to face me and cover her face as we got out the booth. Eleanor, Jackie, helped the people caught in the rubble. Ivy, Hayes, Jonah, come with me, I ordered out, and they nodded. Eleanor and Jackie ran towards the scene while Jackie threw multiple pieces of gum in her mouth. I held Izumi close to me as she gripped onto my torso while herding people out of the place. When we get outside, it's complete chaos. Pros are fighting villains left and right, and civilians are running in all directions trying to find safety. There were these huge monster thing creatures flying and running all over the place. New York is in shambles. To Hayes. I turned to him and he nods, turning into a large dark orange wolf. Placed Izumi on top of him and she looked up at me with tears in her eyes. She looked terrified. Zuzu, don't leave. She hiccuped and I placed my forehead against her and closed my eyes when she did. I put my hand on her head. I love you, Izumi. I'll be back before you know it, okay? Right now I want you to hold on tight to Hayes. He's going to take you to safety, okay? I told her softly, and she nodded before resting her head on his fur while holding on to him for dear life. Keep her safe, I told Hayes, petting his head. He nods before running off. I turned to Jonah. You know what to do. He nodded and shape-shifted into an eagle's, flying towards the fight. He was going to help the pros and find out what's going on. I checked my phone to see multiple missed calls from Ma and Dad. I'll have to call them later. I run back into 𝗕𝗓𝗁 to check on the girls, and they were already helping injured civilians out the place. Paramedics were already running to help them. "You guys okay?" I asked, and they nodded. Jonah flew back, shape-shifting back his original form. "They definitely need help. A group called the League of Villains are here, and we need to change and help fight." Jonah shouted, and my face is drained of color. Aren't the League of Villains supposed to be in Japan? I shake my thoughts away when Eleanor spoke up. "Where's Hayes and Izumi?" she asked, frantically. I told her he's taking her to safety. We split up to change, and my hero costume isn't too flashy. I was wearing a skin-tight long-sleeve compression shirt with a vest and black hoodie on top. The black pants I was wearing had black metal knee pads and a gray belt where I put my guns and knives just in case something goes wrong with Deku and I need something to defend myself with. My red shoes had black power soles that allowed me to jump high and run faster. I finished the look off with black gloves that protects my hands since they're already all scratched up from past jobs. People always ask why my hero costume is 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗲. I like my hero suit like this because it's also good for undercover jobs. I make sure that my hair is covered, my hood and my mask is covering my freckles. I place a black surgical mask over my face before meeting up with the rest of the group to start fighting villains. I summoned Deku and began fighting off low-life villains. Eleanor distracted them by using her quirk to make them afraid and stressed while Ivy tied them up with her vines, leaving them for the cops. Hayes came back after taking Izumi to safety and transformed into a lion and taking down a weird-looking brain monsters. Jonah transformed into a gorilla, throwing villains and making them go unconscious before Ivy's quirk immediately tied them up. Jackie swiftly dodged villains' attack and blew bubbles, popping it in their face, and watched as it stuck to them like a baby fly. She made huge bubbles to capture them in, and when it popped, well, game over for them. Me, on the other hand, is fighting off villains and weird bird brains with the help of Deku and using support items such as quirk-canceling cuffs and sleeping darts to take down my opponent. The group got together again. "Everyone okay?" I asked, and they nodded. It began to feel hot as I stood on my tippy toes looking around. I see my dad glaring at a guy with light blue hair and a crusty face. "Tomura Shigaraki. Kids, get out of here." I looked down beside me to see Honeybun, our homeroom teacher, standing beside me looking at the fight. "It's dangerous." "No. We have licenses and are allowed to be fighting beside you guys, and plus you guys need our help," I say, still in my fighting stance, not giving her a single glance. She ignored me and ran to fight another monsters, one of the villains called Nomu. "Come on, Aki, more people need help," Ivy said, and I shake my head, not taking my eyes off my dad. "Go without me, I'll stay here just in case my dad needs help," I said, and they hesitantly nodded before running off. I watch as my dad and Shigaraki fought, and dad dodging his punches pretty well. I fought off Nomus and villains who tried to harm civilian. Damn it. I look up to see dad holding on to his arms while panting and staring at Shigaraki, who was smirking in triumph. Dad stood up and shot fire from his mouth when a big but Nomu got in the way. It's like dad's fire did nothing. The Nomu grabbed him and threw him harshly against the wall. My eyes widened in horror as dad fell to the ground, coughing and spluttering up. "BLD, the #1 hero of America isn't as strong as I thought." "That's fantastic," he said, walking up to B and reaching to place a hand on his chest. He didn't have the chance to when I grabbed his hair and threw him against a brick wall. The Nomu pounced at me and I dodged its punches and pierced through its skin with Deku, setting it on fire. It screamed in pain and swatted at me, but I dodged it, and through sleeping dart, it didn't even slow down. I glance around me to see the group helping civilians looking at me with worried looks. Shigaraki was starting to out of his daze, and while standing up but stopped when vines wrapped around him. He disintegrated it, but the vines just kept coming automatically, making him angry, searching for the person causing this. It was quite funny because it didn't look like Ivy was causing it. Then I glanced to Dad. Why isn't he moving? I let my guard down that moment, and the Nomu took the chance to pick me up and throw me against the wall harshly. I coughed and gasped for air when I hit the ground. I look up to see that I was beside Dad. The Nomu tried to grab me again when the pro-venom threw venom at it, catching its attention. Did Dad wake up? I spluttered. He slowly opened his eyes and smiled sheepishly to me. He coughed, lifting his hand off his chest, and that's when I realized. Shigaraki had touched him. I shouted, grabbing the attention of most people, including Shigaraki and the Nomu, which had tried coming towards me, but Hayes and Jonah, in a cat-like form, pounced on him, and Ivy used her vines to tie it up. "Oh, this is your son." Shigaraki began to laugh and Hammer-Arm growled before throwing a punch at him. Shigaraki immediately turned him into ashes. Izuku listened to me. He stuttered and my eyes stung with tears. This isn't happening right. Dad, don't do this. Please, we need a medic. I shouted, cradling his head. I want you to promise me something and you're not leaving me again. Why, you hear me? I screamed, my voice cracking. Will help you, I'll get help. I go to get up but he grips my hand. His quirk. It's more powerful than before. It's spreading. He managed to get his fingertips to touch where my heart was. I'm sorry, Izuku, I don't want it to be this way. Can you promise me something? He asked and I nodded as tears streamed down my face. Tell you mother that I'm so sorry and that I love her. Tell Izumi that I'm sorry that I won't be there to walk her down the aisle when she gets married. Tell her that she'll always be my princess and that I love her. I began to sob, holding him close to me. 1. I want you to promise me that you'll never stop achieving your dream of becoming #1 Quirkless hero. You're already almost there, Izuku. Promise that you'll always take care of you mother and little sister. Promise me. I promise. I sobbed, and he let out a dry chuckle before coughing and sputtering up, I love you, Independent Illinois, wait for you in heaven, champ. I began screaming as he went limp in my arms. No, Dad. Don't leave me again, please. I screamed in agony as his body slowly began to turn into dust before my eyes. I shut my eyes and held him closer to me. 6. I hear evil cackling. Oh, look how pathetic this is. I glare at Shigaraki as he walked forward slowly with his hands out beside him. You would think that the #1 hero in New York would be somewhat of a challenge, but turned out he was my weakest opponent yet. He laughed and I growled before standing up. Dad was gone. You son of a bitch. I screamed, glaring at Shigaraki as hot tears rolled down my face. Dakuseisu, come to me. I shout before running at Shigaraki with tears in my eyes. I swung my scythe at him but didn't notice the big purple monster that stood before me. Its stomach slashed open but immediately regenerated. The hell? Face it, kid. He smiled maniacally at me. The Nomu punched me and my back hit the wall and I fell forward, coughing up. I hear Eleanor shout. You're weak. Just like your father. I continued to cough as I felt something wet run down the back of my neck and a hand on my shoulder. I look up to see Eleanor looking at me with a worried expression. She slung my arm over her shoulder and I wince. The #1 hero is dead. Who is going to protect you now? Thunder clapped in the sky as he laughed. I look up to glare at him with one eye open, trying to hide my pain as I grit my teeth. You can't defeat something 100 times use strength. He yelled before laughing maniacally. Slow clapping was heard in the distance. I look over to Ivy to see her handing an injured Hayes to Jackie, who was also holding her brother up. Eleanor helped me over to them. You're funny, she started, a dark shadow cascading over her eyes. What you hurt my friends? Ivy began to walk towards the Nomu. You hurt my family. Thunder began to crack in the sky. You hurt my home. Thunder boomed loudly. She looks up and glared at him as her eyes glowed gray and her hair began to levitate. And you killed my father. She screamed as her whole body glowed. The ground began to shake and lightning spread across the dark skies. A tornado began to form around her as she stood in her place, not taking her eyes off Shigaraki or the Nomu. You killed him. Vines began to form all around us, coming from out of the ground and building walls, and some out from her back. The glow became brighter and brighter to the point where we had to look away. You will pay. And with that, the multiple vines in her back shot at Shigaraki at full speed. Purple smoke began to surround Shigaraki. Ivy Ivy ran up to the 𝗵𝗲 jump up as soon as her fist made contact with it. If disappeared and a bright white cascaded the city. I squint my eyes open trying to search for the 𝗵𝗲, for Ivy. Ivy was still standing. She looked dirty. It was silent before it erupted with cheers of Ivy's hero name. I smiled knowing that she was okay. She turned to us and gave us a weary smile before passing out. Energy knocked out of her. And no 𝗵𝗲 in sight. The thing with Ivy's quirk is that she was only able to control up to 2-3 elements at a time. She never used all of them at the same time and was able to control it. I'm glad she was. Quirk specialist told her that her quirk was far too powerful to be used all at once. She could kill others as well as herself if she lost control, which is why she never goes all out. I guess her anger got the best of her, and she lost it. But thankfully she was able to control all of the elements at once. Soon after we were all taken to the hospital. And then was put face to face with reality. Dad was gone. 2 months later. Izuku's POV. 2 months since the fight. 2 months since Dad passed away. 1 month since his funeral. 2 months since everything changed. Ma was devastated and was thrown into a world of depression, not eating, drinking, sleeping. I can't remember the last time I've seen her smile. After that night Izumi was non-stop asking where her dada was and why he hasn't came back to cuddle her to sleep during that scary night. It was hard explaining to a 3-year-old that her dada wasn't coming back because he was in a safe place called heaven. And me. Izuku, please, Ma pleaded, holding onto my arm. I could hear Izumi crying in the background. Let go of me. I shrug her off, before slamming the front door shut. We have gotten into yet another argument. Thinks that it'd be a good idea to move back to Japan. She said there was nothing left for us in America. That was complete bullshit. My family is here. The people who was there for me when I needed them the most. The ones who laughed and cried with me. When she said that there was nothing here, I was livid. I don't want to go back to Japan, where the nightmares were. But at the same time I don't blame Ma for wanting to run away from her problems. I went to the one person who I knew I could always talk to. Hey Dad. 2 weeks later, we're going to miss you guys. Eleanor cried, holding tightly onto Izumi. Jackie and Ivy had me in a bone-crushing hug while Hayes watched with tears in his eyes and Jonah comforting Eleanor. After visiting Dad's grave I felt a little better. I got the group together and told them that I was going to be moving back to Japan soon. Of course there was a lot crying, and after we decided to spend as much time together as possible. They took time off school to stay at my house and spend time with Ma, Izumi, and I. We went skating every night, did movie nights, and slept in the living room for the past 2 weeks after the workers cleared out our rooms. I don't want to go, Mama, Izumi hiccuped, holding onto Eleanor like her life depended on it. Last call for flight 7 a.m. New York to Tokyo, Japan. Come on guys, Ma said, walking into the boarding bridge. She didn't even say goodbye. I sighed and began sobbing as they formed a huge group hug. We love you guys so much. You better visit every holiday. We'll visit every holiday. FaceTime us every chance you get no matter the time difference. Stay safe and out of trouble, okay? We briefly pulled away from the hug and I picked Izumi up as she wrapped her arms around my neck and her legs around my hips, nuzzling into my neck while crying softly. I love you guys, I said, before walking inside the boarding bridge, giving them one last look as they waved us off with tears in their eyes. The last thing I saw was Eleanor covering her face with her hands and crying into Jonah's chest as he and everyone went to comfort her. Ma twisted her key in the door and pushed it opening, revealing a cozy-looking place. This isn't home. Here we are, she sighed, looking to me. I didn't meet her gaze. I'm going to lay Izumi down. I whispered, Izumi sleeping peacefully in my arms. Ma nodded. Okay, can I talk to you after? She asked timidly, and I hummed a yes before walking to the door that had Izumi's name hanging on it. After laying her down, I went to the kitchen where Ma was to talk. Izuku, baby. She stood up and walked up to be wrapping her arms around me. I hugged her back. You know I love you, right? I did this for us. She said, sobbing quietly. No, you did this for you. I know. I mumbled quietly. I know your dad's passing did a toll on you, it did on all of us, and I think this was the best decision. she said, and I nodded. She pulled away holding both of my arms. You start school tomorrow. I know it's soon, you don't have to go tomorrow if you don't want to. It's all right. What school will I be attending? I asked, and she looked down and whispered, Don't get mad at me. 𝗧𝗓𝗍𝗧, she said before biting her bottom lip, searching for a reaction out of me. Okay, was all I replied with before walking to my room. I can hear Ma's sigh of relief in the distance. When I shut and locked the behind me, I took a deep breath before grabbing the vase on the stand beside me and threw it at the wall, watching it explode into millions of pieces. I slid down my door, gripping my hair, trying to holding back the tears that were threatening to pour out of my eyes. I began laughing. Why? I look up, laughing in pain. Why did my life have to become so f up? What did I do? What did I do? My voice cracked at my last sentence as I began to sob. I wish Dad were here. If he was, I wouldn't be here. I would be out patrolling with him, and then I'll go to shake and skate with my friends and Izumi. I would have continued to fight against stupid villains. Why did you have to leave? After crying for another 30 minutes, I began to clean up the glass. Izumi might be in here to cuddle later, and I don't want her stepping in it. I took a shower and changed into a pair of black basketball shorts and a brown plaid jacket. I heard a knock on the door. Aizu, I have your uniform, and can you come down here? There are people here to see you, I hear on the other side. It better not be who I think it is. Who's here? I question. Silence. Mitsuki, Masaru, and Katsu dash. I cut her off. I'm not going down there to see him. If they want to come up to say hi, they can, I said sternly, before sitting next to the door after locking it. Not him though. I added. Izuku, please. She begged, and I ignored her. After a while, I hear her footsteps fade away. A few minutes later, footsteps fade in, then a knock on the door. Izuku, may I come in? Auntie Mitsuki. No. I reply. Silence. Please. She added after, and I sighed, unlocking the door. It creaked open, and she walked in before closing and locking it and sitting down beside me. She pulled me into a side hug, and I lean into it. I missed you so much. And I'm so sorry for what that brat did to you years ago. It's all right, I don't care anymore. I reply, and she turned to me shocked. You really have changed these years, she said. I nodded. I'm sorry for your loss. Hisashi was an amazing hero and father. She then said, and I tense. I nodded again. You know, I saw you on the news. You're going to become an amazing hero, and I can tell that you're inspiring other Quirkless kids out there. That they too can become a hero. She said briefly. I nodded again. There was a knock on the door. Hurry up in there, Mitsu. I want to talk to him too, you know. I let out a dry chuckle when I heard Uncle Masaru's whining voice. Auntie Mitsuki clicked her tongue-rolling eyes before kissing my cheek and getting off the floor. Don't do that again, dumbass, she said, walking past him as he chuckled. He shut the door before me and stared down at me. I'm too old to be bending down, so I'd appreciate it if you stood up to hug me, he said with a sly smile, and I shake my head before standing up, towering over him. His eyes widen. Goddamn, my boy. How tall are you? I chuckle. I'm 5 feet 8 inches, uncle, I said with a smile, and he dramatically stumbles back. I could have swore you were like this short the last time I saw you, he levels to his hip. I shrug my shoulders, and he pulls me into a bone-crushing hug. I missed you, Izuku, and I'm sorry for your loss, he said, and I hug him back. He pulled away. How are you feeling? He questioned, and I shrug. All right, I guess. I lied. He seemed to buy it. Katsuki's been asking about you, he then said, and I scoffed. Of course he has. He was wondering where'd his punching bag run off to. Would like to see him, he asked. I shook my head, and he nodded. All right, I'll go get your uniform, he said, and walked out the room. The door burst back open, revealing a hyper Izumi holding her pink skates. Zuzu, can we go? She asked, holding up her skates to me. I looked down at her with pity. She's gotten so much better at skating and begged us to go every single night so she could practice. I couldn't say no to her. I slowly nodded, and she smiled brightly before running out the room. Mama, Zuzu said yes. I hear her shout in the distance. Masaru came back to give me my uniform and I closed my door to change. I changed into a long-sleeve black turtleneck and put a gray knitted sweater over it. I wore black ripped jeans with black Vans and a gold anklet and necklace. I put on chapstick and slipped a silver ring on my pointer finger, the one Ivy gifted me before we left. I slipped my glasses on and grabbed my keys and skates when Izumi ran into my room dressed in a brown long-sleeve, brown plain skirt, black tights, and black boots. Her green curly hair in a high ponytail with a brown bow. "Come on, Zuzu." She cheered, grabbing my hand, dragging me down the hall. She let go off my hand and ran past everyone to the door. I kept my head down, ignoring their stares. I refused to look him in the eye. "We're off," I said. "Izuku," Ma said, and I stop in my tracks, not turning around. I hear her footsteps walk closer to me until she was standing directly in front of me. "Baby, I know you're mad at him, but please. He's changed," Ma said, with a hint of sadness in her voice. "No, Yuki, you should come too. Can you skate?" "I can skate really well because Ellie and Zuzu taught me," Izumi said proudly, running to him. "God damn it, Izumi." I look down to glare at her as she smiles happily at me. I roll my eyes and she sticks her tongue out me and I mock her. "Whoa, Izuku, when'd you get that?" I pick Izumi up and turn to Masaru with a blank look. I shrug. "He's talking about my tongue piercing. I let Jonah do it last year because he wouldn't stop begging me. I actually like it. He always had it." "Open, Zuzu," Izumi said, and I stuck my tongue out. She tried to pull my piercings and I bit her finger. "Owie," she said, holding on to her finger and glaring at me. "Told you to stop doing that, Izzy." I kiss her cheek and put her down. She pouts and slaps my leg before turning to him. I look at him and he was staring right at me. He still looks the same to me, but definitely incredibly more handsome. For what? There's no denying the truth. Yuki, come," Izumi said happily, tugging his breathed leg. Sorry, Umi, I think I should stay here," he said softly. Katsuki Bakugo talking softly. "Last time I checked he hated kids. I thought he was going to yell at her and call her a brat." Please, can you skate? If not, it's okay. I will teach you." She pouted. "Zuzu, he can come right." I shrugged my shoulders. Ma gives me a soft smile and kissed my cheek and mouthed a thank you. I smiled down at her and kissed her head. "Come on before I leave you," I said sternly, holding my hand out for Izumi to grab. She took my hand and we walked out the door. Besides Izumi's loud singing and bouncing in her car seat, the ride was slightly awkward. I could feel his eyes burning the side of my face, the scowl never leaving my face as I kept my eyes on the road. "Deku who's Deku?" I spat. He sighed. "Izuku better." I pull into the skating rink driveway and got out the car, Katsuki following suit. I smiled brightly when I opened Izumi's door and got her out of the car seat, placing her on my hip. We get to the cashier and I took out my wallet, paying for us. "You're not paying for Shut up." I gave the cashier the money and handed Katsuki his ticket before opening the door and entering the rink. Izumi bounced to get out of my arms and went with Katsuki, who was buying skates. I found us a table and began putting my skates on. "To Zuzu. Yuki's never been skating, we have to teach him." I look up to see Izumi dragging Katsuki to our table. "Okay," I reply, smiling at her and sitting her my lap and helping put her skates on, holding them up so she could tie them. I glance at Katsuki to see him tying his red skates. I stand Izumi up and stood up behind her. I checked my phone to see my friends telling me how much they miss and love us. I smile softly at that. I hear Katsuki clear his throat and my face turn expressionless as I look down at him over my phone. "What are you doing?" "Stand up," I said, and he stood up and began wiggling. I snorted and he glared at me. "Zuzu, don't laugh, that's mean," Izumi chided, before going to his side and taking his hand. "Now you take his other hand, Zuzu," she said, and I frowned looking at it. "I don't know where that's been." You can help him, Izzy, I'm going to test the floor." That sounded stupid. Izumi nodded and Katsuki gave me a confused look. I rolled my eyes at him and skated to the rink. As soon as my skates hit the smooth floor, I began skating faster and doing tricks. I always fall into my element when I skate. I love the feeling of the air blowing past my hair. Every time I came across someone struggling to get up, I'd swiftly lift them up before the workers can and skate backwards to wave and smile at them. I passed Izumi and Katsuki a few times to see him struggling to stay up while gripping the wall and Izumi's hand, careful not to squeeze it too hard. She laughed at him each time he let go, only to stumble and grab it again. I would kill to see him fall on his butt. Light bulb. As I was passing them for 5th time, I turned so I was skating backwards and facing them. Izumi giggled when she saw me and Katsuki watched in awe. I blew a kiss at him and winked. His eyes widened and a blush dusted across his cheek. When Izumi called his name for the 2nd time, he flinched, lost his balance, and fell on his butt. When I burst out laughing, I turned back around with a sporting grin on my face. Passing them again, I slowed down when Izumi called my name. "Zuzu, it's your turn to help him, he's a lost cause." She sighed and I raised an eyebrow at her. "How do you know what a lost cause is?" I questioned. "Mama called our old neighbor Chad that all the time," she said happily, and I laughed, shaking my head. "Here, you help him." She connected our hands and I flinched at the contact. "And I'm going to help him, he looks like he needs it," she said. Look at a boy who looked to be around her age, maybe 4. When I nodded. When she skated off, I tried to snatch my hand away. When I did, he began to wobble and wrap his arm over my shoulder and grabbed the wall while I instinctively put my arm around his hip, holding him up. "USCK at this," I muttered. I tried to maneuver us away from the wall, but he had a death grip on it. "Katsuki, let go of the DMN wall," I said, and he glared at me. "No. I'm going to fall on my butt again. That was embarrassing." He whispered the last part, looking away from me. "I won't let you fall." I deadpan. He searched my face for any lies before slowly letting go of it. I should throw him on the ground like he did to me years ago. I dragged him a faraway distance from it. I moved my arm from his hips and he noticeably flinched and held on to me tighter. "Pinky," I said blankly. "What?" "Pinky." I hold my pinky out to him and he entwined his with mine. He wobbled a little bit. "We'll skate it a couple of laps for you to get you balance before I teach you how to actually turn and stuff so you won't fall," I said, and he nodded. I saw Izumi helping the little boy skate properly and smiled to myself. After doing about 3 laps, he got the hang of it and I began teaching him how to turn and simple stuff. He may have stumbled and wobbled a few times, but he got the hang of it. A steamy slow song came on and I saw some people skate off the rink. Izumi skated between us. "Zuzu, I'm going to sit down and drink my juice," she said, and I nodded. I picked a seat where I would be able to keep an eye on her at all times. She smiled at us once more before skating off. Couples began to hold hands and sway to the song. "Are we getting off too?" Katsuki asked. I shook my head. "Nope," I replied before skating in front of him and turning to face him, skating backwards, slightly swaying my hips to the beat. He watched intently. When I slowed down a bit, letting him catch up to me as I wrapped my arms around his neck, playing with his hair. His eyes never left mine as I rolled my bottom lip into my mouth. My face turned into a glare as I looked up at him. I stare at him in disgust and lust as I lean up to his ear. I dragged my hands down his broad shoulders and wrapped his hands around my waist. "You know I hate your guts, right?" I whisper, and he visibly tense. I clicked my tongue and my lips brush against his jawline as I met his gaze again. I smile sweetly before pushing off of him and skating off to where Izumi was sitting. Izuku's POV, I sat down across from Izzy and she smiles at me. She sits her juice box down and exhales dramatically. I chuckle. "What would you like to do for your birthday tomorrow, Izzy?" I ask her and she places her finger on her chin as if she's thinking long and hard. "Skating rink." She cheers. "What about something else?" "We skate every day." I reason. She shakes her head viciously. "No, I want to go skating. Mama can come. Auntie can come. Uncle can come. And Yuki," she said happily with her hands up. "Thanks for the invite, bug." Katsuki ruffled her hair and sat down beside her. "Don't call her that." I snap. He turned to me. "Joe calls me that." "I miss Joe," Izumi said sadly, slumping in her seat. Katsuki questions staring at me intently. None of your business. I snare, rolling my eyes, and Izumi frowns at me. Zuzu, why are you being mean to Yuki? She asked, tilting her head slightly. I'm just tired, Izzy, I sigh. Oh, can we skate for a little while longer? She then asks, and I nodded, standing up. Izuku, can we talk? Katsuki asked. Before I could deny, Izumi interrupts me. Tyson. Zuzu, stay here, she said before running off to the boy she was helping earlier. I turn and glare at the blonde. Look, I don't care if you changed over the years. That doesn't take away the fact that you've tormented me throughout our whole childhood for something I couldn't control. So do me a favor and stay the hell out of my way, better yet, my life. I spat, taking in his shocked yet guilty expression. I give him one last glare before looking for Izumi. I don't want to be here anymore. The car ride back to the house was silent. Izumi was sleeping in her car seat while holding on to a stuffed panda she won from the claw machine. Katsuki hasn't tried to start a conversation with me the whole ride. He's just been staring out the window. When we reached a red light, I sigh, laying back in my seat and glancing at him once more. You can't deny the fact that he's good-looking. From his messy, spiky blonde hair, to his crimson-red eyes, defined jawline, and plump pink lips, just everything about him is indescribably attractive. And I hate it. Izuku, the light turned blue. His low, husky voice shook me back into reality. I rolled my eyes and looked back at the road. We finally made it to the house and I got our skates out the car. Katsuki unbuckled and picked Izumi out of her car seat as she wrapped her arms around his neck and her legs around his hips. I unlocked the front door and everyone stopped their conversation to look at us. Did you guys have fun? Seems like Izzy did, Ma said, and I nodded slightly, putting the skates down and taking Izumi from Katsuki. I'll go lay her down, I mumbled before walking down the hall to her bedroom. I take her shoes off and tuck her in bed. I kiss her temple before cracking the door and walking back into the living. Mitsuki was hugging Ma and Masaru was grabbing the car keys. Finally, Mitsuki walks up to me and envelopes me in a bone-crushing hug. I'm so glad you're back, Izu, she said softly. Yeah. Auntie, let go, you're killing me. I grunted, and she lets go with a chuckle. See ya later, boy, Masaru said, and I smile. Izuku, I turn to see Katsuki looking at me. The smile is immediately wiped off my face as I glare at him. No, I respond with before walking to my room, ignoring Ma's calls for me. A few seconds later, I hear the front door shut and footsteps heading towards my room. The door opened as I was taking off my jewelry. Izuku, why are you acting like that? He's obviously trying. Ma fretted. Well, he should stop. I clearly stated that I hated him today at the rink. I grumbled. Why would you say that? Ma, do you know what he did to me years ago? He abused me not only mentally but physically, because of something I couldn't control. He told me to take a swan dive off a roof for goodness sake. I shouted with tears burning my eyes. Do you have any idea what that did to me? My voice cracked. Ma only stared at me with pity and tears running down her cheeks. What if I took his advice, huh? I added, wiping my tears away. But Izuku, no, but just get out of my room. I muttered, walking to my dressers and pulling out a pair of shorts. I soon hear the door close. I angrily wiped my tears and changed before laying in bed, letting sleep consume me. The next morning I woke up to the sound of my alarm blaring. I shut it off and groggily rubbed my eyes, stifling a yawn. I looked down to see Izumi cuddling to my chest. I kissed the top of her head. Izzy, it's time to wake up. I cooed, and her eyes slowly opened. She smiled. Happy birthday, I said before attacking her with kisses. She turned into a giggling fit trying to pry me off of her. I pick her up and walk down the hall to find Ma. Instead I find a note. Morning, Izu and Umi. I'm out early running errands, so can you drop Izumi off at Mitsuki's house? Thank you, Pumpkin. Love, lunches in the fridge. I frown and crumble the paper before throwing it in the trash. She could have woken me up early so I could get us both bathed and dressed. I put Izumi down and kneeled down to her level. We have an hour and a half. All right, Buttercup. We have an hour to get us both dressed and fed before I have to take you to Mitsuki's and me to school on time. I say, and she looked at me with determination. Aye, Captain. But where's Mama? She went to run errands. Now move. Move. I shout at the end and she giggles before running to her room. I lay my uniform on my bed along with my rings and necklaces. After that I went to check on Izumi, who was picking out a birthday outfit. Can I wear this? She holds up a white and pink dress that said birthday girl and a number 4 on the back. Of course, we were going to have you wear that anyway, I said, and she jumped up and down. Okay, come on, you're going to take a bath now since you didn't last night, I said as she grabbed my hand. After getting Izumi bathed and dressed, I put cartoons on in the living room and ordered breakfast since I wouldn't have time to make any. I took a quick shower and got out. As I was patting down my hair, I hear a knock on the door. Zuzu. Someone's at the door. Izumi yelled from the living room and I wrapped the towel around my waist. Izumi laughs at me as I rush to the front door, in my towel. I stop in front of her and shake my hair, laughing as water flew at her. Now who's the one laughing? I joked and she pouted at me, but it didn't last long when she started giggling. I opened the front door and saw a male staring down at me, surprised. I smile at him. F for Izuku. He stammered and I nodded. Thanks, I said, taking the food and handing him 2,000 yen as a tip. I shut the door and lock it before walking into the kitchen with a giddy Izumi following closely behind. I sat her in her high chair and put her birthday pancakes, bacon, and eggs down in front of her. I'm going to get changed, I said. Are you going to eat anything? She said with her mouth full, and I shake my head. Not hungry, we'll leave when I'm done, I stated before walking down the hall to my bedroom. I take the uniform that was neatly packed in a plastic bag. I placed the nicely folded pants and shirt and tie on the bed. I put on deodorant and strawberry scent lotion before getting dressed. I made sure my tie was loosely done and 2 buttons undone. I put on my necklace and silver ring before putting my glasses on and making my way down the hall. I picked my keys off the key hanger. I made sure I had everything in my backpack, including my school ID. I had Izumi take a few pictures of me to post before getting her buckled in her seat. Hello Izuku, Izumi, Mitsuki said happily when she opened the door. Auntie, Izumi cheered, hugging her leg. Happy birthday. How old did you turn? 10. Mitsuki asked, playfully picking Izumi up as she giggled. No, Auntie, I'm 4. Izumi corrected, lifting up 4 fingers. I'm off, I said, stretching. I kissed Izumi on the cheek and told her I'll see her later before driving off to a place I call hell. I checked the time and it's 7:25, meaning that there are 30 minutes until the bell rang. I walk through the front gate and to the front of the school. I take a deep breath and gave myself a small pep talk. I know that it won't be the same without the squad by my side, but I need to make the most of it and be confident and flaunt. I keep telling myself these things to hype myself up, but truth be told, it wasn't working. I'm nervous as hell. So I did the one thing I know would calm me down. Set the place on fire. Too kidding. Please answer, Izuku. I called Hayes because I knew that he'd be on his phone with everyone. I hear everyone scream into the mic and I pulled it away with a chuckle. I miss them. I'm at the front of the school, but I'm nervous as hell, and I knew you guys would make me feel better, so, oh please, you have nothing to be nervous about. Yeah. Hayes flipped the camera this way. I hear Eleanor cheer and Hayes flipped it to the back camera. She winked in the camera and proceeded to catwalk to the phone while waving around and blow kisses. Oh God, Ella, I'm not doing all that, I laughed, and she giggled before sitting on Jonah's lap. Hayes flipped the camera and opened his mouth, zooming in. EW. Hayes, you pig. Jackie snatched the phone and I see her giving him a disgusted look and hear his laughter in the background. Ivy puts her face in the camera and kisses at it. Izuku babe, you got this. Go in there and show them who's the baddest beach of the school. Yeah, be a bad beach, Izu. I'll kick anyone in the nose who has something to say to you. Remember Cody? Make their nose bleed like you did to him. I scrunch my nose at the memory. Plus, thank you, I miss and love you guys so much. Bye. I kiss the screen and watch as all of them jump in the camera saying their goodbyes before hanging up. I feel so much better now. I could walk in there and act like they're with me. They wouldn't want me to walk in there with my tail hiding between my legs. I take a deep breath and open the school doors. Now all eyes were on me. Izuku's POV, all eyes were on me. With a blank look on my face, I looked down at my phone to see what class I was in. Class 3A. Before I could put my phone back in my pocket, the group chat goes off. These idiots. I began walking down the halls, smiling down at my phone where Jonah and Jackie were arguing over who was the better twin. I know they started this to get my mind off things, and it was most definitely working because this is the second most funniest SHT I've seen since I've been here. The first thing was seeing Katsuki fall on his butt. I glance up and see Katsuki staring intently at me. I glare at him. It looks like he has his little group of friends. One that looks like Pikachu, one with red hair, one whose elbows look funky, a girl with earphones dangling from her ears, and a girl with pink hair. One they look like a fun group. I walked past them and saw the door that said 3A on it. Before I opened it, I hear a really irritating laugh. Confused, I turn to see a boy with blonde hair pointing at me. Class 3A. You're the one who replaced the purple head guy. What's your quirka? He goes to touch me and I punch him in the face. Who even is he? I look at my hand in disgust before pulling out hand sanitizer and squirting some on my hands, viscously rubbing them together. 2 gasps are heard from across the halls and I look up to see everyone staring at me. I roll my eyes before turning around and opening the door to the classroom and walking in. I sit down at the second desk next to the window and kicked my feet up. I only got 4 hours of sleep and I'm exhausted, might as well get some sleep now. I put my arm over my eyes and fell asleep. Hey new kid. I groggily open my eyes and look up to see a guy with blue hair and glasses making chopping movement with his hands at me. What is that, some kind of secret QR code or some SHT1? You cannot have your feet up and you cannot sleep at school. It's inappropriate, he said in a monotone voice. I yawn and pull out my phone to see the group chat still going. I lift my phone up to take a picture and send it to them. Hey, are you listening to me? He asked angrily. I sigh, slamming my phone on my desk, turning to him. What's your name? I asked politely and he looked taken aback. 𝗕𝗫𝗫𝗍𝗔. He stammered. All right, Ida. May I politely ask you to shut the hell up and get out of my face? I asked sweetly, and everyone in the class stopped their conversation and looked at us. Ida gaped at me. Move for eyes. Just my luck. He's in this class. Bakugo, I'd appreciate it if you'd use the words, excuse me, instead of dash. He was interrupted when Katsuki made little explosions out of the palm of his hands. Ida gulped and pushed his glasses to the bridge of his nose. All right, I'll be on my way, he said before scurrying off. It was nice meeting you, Ida, I exclaimed, waving him off. Hi dude. I'm Myheroacademia. Redhead held his hand out to me and I shook it. Izuku Midoriya. I smiled seductively, and his cheeks turned crimson, pulling away. I'm Denki Kaminari, in case you were wondering. Pikachu guy move his hand towards me. I shake it and giggled. I'm pretty sure he wasn't. Deformed elbows stated. 𝗵𝗃, he said, and I nodded. 3. I hear a high-pitched squeal and look up to see the girl with pink hair jumping up and down. I'm Ishido Mina. OMG, you're so cute, hot. She cheered and I blushed slightly, thanking her. 3. I'm 𝗬𝗁𝗔𝗂, earphone girl said, looking me up and down. I like your piercings, she added, slightly smiling. Before I could reply, the door burst open, revealing a hobo-looking man whose eyes glared red and his hair raised. Everyone rushed to their seats. Good morning, class. Today we have a new kid joining us today and I want you guys to be on your best be-dash. He stopped when his eyes landed on me. I glared back at him, giving him the same intensity. His eyebrows raised and his eyes softened. You were supposed to be in the principal's office before you came in here, he said, and I shrugged. I didn't know, I said, and he nodded towards the door before walking. I stood up, ignoring everyone's curious eyes, and walked out the door. The piercings isn't school appropriate, and your undone tie and buttons are highly inappropriate. I cut off his rambling with a scoff. You're just gonna have to deal with it. I cross my arms and glare back at him. You know I could have you expel with the snap of my finger. He spat, I chuckled. You'd think that I'd follow dress code if I really want to be here. The truth is that I don't. I hate this school. So do me a favor and expel me. I shot back, and before he could say, someone from behind his clapped their hands together. You must be Izuku Midoriya. It's a pleasure. I'm upset I didn't get to properly meet you beforehand. A mouse rat-looking thing walked in front of Aizawa and shook my hand. You don't look upset, I said, glaring at him, and he just smiled. I'm Principal Nizu, as you might already know, and this is your homeroom teacher Shota Aizawa. Go on in class while I have a quick chat with him. He briefly explained, sipping his tea and shooing me off to the class. I roll my eyes and walk in the room to my seat behind. Oh, for F's sake. Aizawa later comes in and shuts the door behind him. His gaze never left mine. I grimace at him and roll my eyes before raising my hand. Yes, Midoriya. Is there any other open seat? I asked, and Katsuki turns to me and his eyebrows knitted. I scrunch my nose disgustingly at him. I scoot my chair back. No, he said boringly before starting the lesson. It's finally lunchtime and I pack my bag waiting for everyone to leave. When Katsuki got up, I grab his wrist. He turns to me. Izumi's birthday party is at the skating rink at 6 p.m. sharp. If you're late, I'll make sure they lock you out. I explained, letting go of his wrist and walking away. Izuku, he cleared his throat and I turned, glaring at him. You know I'm sorry. For what I've done to you. I'm really sorry. When you left I hold my hand up, stopping him. Stop. I don't care anymore. I shrug and he seemed to loosen up. So you don't hate me? He asked and I snorted. Oh yes, of course I do. I replied happily before walking out the classroom. I walk into the cafeteria when I heard my name being called. Midobro. Over here. I look to see Kirishima waving me over. I smile and walk over to where he's sitting. So how are you liking it here at UA? Kaminari asked. I hate it. I said, opening my bento. Oh, is it because of what happened with Monoma? Mina asked as I took out my chopsticks. Nope. I reply before slurping my noodles. What's up with him? I questioned, pointing to a boy with red and white hair sitting alone eating soba. Oh, that's Todoroki, he's kind of a loner. Kirishima shrugged. Have you guys tried talking to him? I asked. Of course, he's been our classmate for almost 3 years, but he's made it pretty clear that we're only competition. Yeah, he walked up to Bakugo once and told him that he will beat him and become #1 hero. Jiro briefly explained and I nodded. I'm going to talk to him, I said before standing up, packing my stuff, and walking to his table. Good luck. I sat down across from him and he didn't notice me until I stuck my hand out to him. He looked up from his phone with the blank expression. Izuku Midoriya, I said with a smile, and he stared at my hand. You were the one who punched Monoma and was rude to Ida and Aizawa. He deadpans and I slowly put my hand back to my side. You're really observant, I said, crossing my arms and resting my head on them, staring into his heterochromia eyes. He nodded and looked back down at his soba. Is that cold? I asked. He nodded. I like cold soba, he said, staring into my soul. He's kind of scary. What's your name? Shoto Todoroki. You're the son of Endeavor, right? I feel bad for you, he's horrible, I said, and he seemed interested then. Yeah, I hate him, he grumbled with a frown. I met him a few times because he was friends with my dad, and when he found out that I wanted to become a quirkless hero, he told me. I deepened my voice. You can't become a quirkless hero. That's pathetic, deadly, and impossible. That dream is unreal. I rolled my eyes at the memory. So when he stayed over for the night, I placed a quirk-canceling bands on his wrist and threw the key into the ocean. It took them hours to find it. I laughed and he cracked a smile. You're quirkless? He questioned and I nodded. Yep, and I'm aiming for the top. I grin. Well, I wish you luck, because I am also aiming to be #1. He said and I snorted. Of course. Todoroki and I talked for the rest of lunch. I told him stories about my pranks on Endeavor each time he visited my dad. It's gotten to the point where he stopped visiting altogether. It was the funniest SHT ever. 1 The bell rang and we gathered our stuff and headed to class. When we entered the room in a fit of laughter talking about the time Todoroki drove 𝗕𝗏𝗏's car into a lake, everyone was staring at us with curiosity. You two seem to be getting along, Mina chirped. I guess, I shrugged. Todoroki went to his seat and I followed. He continued to finish the story he was telling before we entered the room, when Aizawa opened the door and immediately used his quirk. Everyone rushed to their seats and quietly sat down. I rolled my eyes and slowly made my way to my seat, glaring at the older man while doing it. He scowled at me before beginning with the lesson. The final bell went off and I was walking out the building. Hey Midoriya! A voice called. I turned to see it was Mina along with Kirishima, Kaminari, Siro, and Bakugo. Hey Mina, what's up? Tomorrow night I'm throwing a party and wanted to know if you could make it. She exclaimed. I'll be there. I started, she squealed. Reminds me of Eleanor, they'd be great friends. See you tomorrow. She said happily. I waved at the others before making my trip back home. Wait Midobro, dorms are this way. Kirishima shouted. I'm staying home for now. I shouted back before hopping in my car and driving off. I make a quick stop at the market to get decorations for Izumi's party later. I bought her a midnight action figure since she's obsessed with her and wrapped it up in a birthday bag. I buy a card and signed it. 5 should have made reservations at the skating rink for a party room, so I drove there to drop off some decorations. I take the gift and decorations out the back seat and entered the rink meeting a middle-aged woman at the front counter. She smiled. Hello, party room reservation for Izuku Midoriya. I said, and she typed in the computer before looking back at me. Sorry, no reservation were made under that name. She said, and I gave her a confused look. Izuku Midoriya. I questioned and she typed again before looking at me, shaking her head. I pull out my phone and held my finger up, signaling the women to hold on. Hey Zuka baby. Ma's cheery voice booms through the phone. Ma. 𝗓𝗏𝗄. Is everything alright? She asked concerned. Ma, did you make reservations at the Looney's skating rink in the party room? I question. Reservations? For what? She did not. Ma. You did not forget. I feel my face heat up in anger. Honey, I don't know what you're talking about. Ma, today is Izumi's birthday. You were supposed to make reservations for her birthday, please don't tell me you forgot. Silence. Aizu, I'm so sorry, she apologized. It's fine I guess, I'll just make the reservations. It starts at 6 p.m. I hear shuffling on the other side. Oh, I won't be able to make it. She said. What? Baby I can't, tell Izumi I love her and wish her a happy birthday for me. I love you. She said quickly hanging up. 3 What is up with her? I stared at my phone in disbelief. I slowly close my eyes and take a deep breath before slowly reopening them and smiling at the shocked women in front of me. Can I make a reservation in the party room under the name Izuku Midoriya from 6 to 8:30 p.m.? I said with a grin. Women smiled softly at me and nodded. May I ask what the birthday girl's name is? She questioned looking at her computer. Izumi. I said and she nodded with a smile typing on the computer. She looked up at me with a beaming smile. All right, it's done, you may head in. She said and I paid her before picking the bags off the floor and entering the rink. After setting up a few things I left the rink and went to pick Izumi up from the Bakugos. I can't believe Ma really forgot her own daughter's birthday and have the audacity to not show up. I just hope Izumi won't be so upset about it. I knock on the door and it opened, reveal a beaming Mitsuki and a sleepy Izumi. Zuzu. She cheered and stifled a yawn. I picked her up and she rested her head on my shoulder. She's exhausted. I laughed. Yeah, she was almost asleep, but then you knocked on the door. What did you guys do today? Well, first we went to pick out a toy for her since it's her birthday. Don't tell her, but she'll be receiving another one tonight. She whispered quietly, careful not to wake up a now sleeping Izumi. Went to the park, got ice cream, baked cookies, and made some chocolate strawberries. Seemed like she had a fun, exhausting day. At least she'll be awake by the time we go skating. I said. Yes, she was so excited wouldn't stop talking about it all day, Mitsuki stated. I bet. Well, I'm going to take her home and lay her down for her nap. See you later, I exclaimed, and Mitsuki waved us off as I walked down the steps to my car. Izuku's POV. When we got to the house, I laid Izumi down in her bed before heading downstairs and taking out stuff to make her cake. Strawberry is her favorite. After a few hours, the cake is done and boxed up in the fridge. I checked on Izumi to see her still asleep. I took the little time I had until she woke up and took a 30-minute shower. I step out the shower, dry off, moisturized, and wrapped the towel back around my waist and exited the bathroom to see Izumi laying down in my bed half asleep. "Zuzu cuddles," she said groggily. "Izzy, we have to get ready for you party," I said softly, and she perked up. "Oh right, it's my birthday," she said before jumping off my bed and running off to her room. I can hear her rummaging through her drawers. I chuckled and shook my head and walked to my drawers looking for an outfit. I chose light blue baggy ripped jeans, tight green CRP top that exposed my toned abs, and white sneakers. I go into my bathroom to touch up and hair before finishing the look with my usual jewelry. I grab my skates and check to see if I had everything I needed before calling for Izumi and making our way to the rink. I held the cake in one hand and Izumi's in the other. I turn around and pushed the door open with my back. The same women from early gave me a sweet smile and wished Izumi a happy birthday before holding the door open for us and opening the door to the party room open. I thanked the women who I now know as Sammy, and felt Izumi's grip on my leg as a high-pitched squeal rang through the room. I looked down confusingly at Izumi before looking up to see the Bakugos and Mina, Kaminari, Siro, Kirishima, and Jiro staring back at me. "Is this the birthday girl?" Mina squealed and Izumi tightened her grip on my leg. I glare at Katsuki as he glared at Mina before giving me an apologetic look. "I'm sorry. When I told these idiots that I was going to a kid's birthday party, Pikachu's immature as self got all giddy and wanted to tag along saying how much he loved kid birthday parties, and everyone else wanted to tag along," he explained rather quickly as I raised an eyebrow at him. "They bought gifts," he added, and Izumi let go off my leg and began bouncing around. "Gifts?" Izumi excitedly questioned. One Izumi ran to go meet the others. Mitsuki and Masaru walked up to me with a slightly confused look. "Where's Inko?" she questioned, and I rolled my eyes. "She forgot all about her birthday and can't make it," I grumbled, and Mitsuki's face dropped. "Oh, I'm sorry," she said, and Masaru patted my shoulder with a sad smile. I shrugged. "It is what it is. There's nothing I could do about it," I said blankly. "Ellie!" I hear Izumi scream and run out the room. I turned and looked out the window to see the squad outside the room with their skates hugging Izumi. "No way." I let out a laugh and dropped my stuff and ran out the room, leaving everyone else confused. "What the F, guys?" I ran to hug them, which they all returned. "Surprise!" Eleanor exclaimed. "Ella refused to miss Izumi's 4th birthday and made us all fly out here last minute," Jonah said, earning a slight glare from his girlfriend. "We missed you, babes," Ivy said. I cried and hugged them tighter, not wanting to let go. "Zuzu! Zuzu, pick me up, I'm drowning." I looked down to see Izumi tugging on my jeans, trying to get out the tight space. I chuckled and picked her up, holding her for a split second before Jonah snatched her and attacked her face with kisses, earning a bunch of giggled from her. "My turn. Catch." Jonah tossed Izumi to Eleanor, making my heart stop, as she laughed and giggled as Eleanor too attacked her face with kisses. "They need to stop throwing my sister. They do this every year and now it's their thing. Yes, every birthday, no matter how old she gets, they're going to toss her around like a sack of potatoes." Hayes recorded the whole thing and shoved his phone in his pocket when she went to him. After he finished with his kiss attack, Izumi was gasping from laughing too much. I took her from Hayes and held her possessively close to me, glaring at them. "What?" Jackie shrugged and I rolled my eyes. I heard a voice clear behind me to see the others staring confusingly at me and the squad. "Oh yeah, forgot about you guys," I said before turning back to the squad and mouthing "behave." I turned to everyone else with a cheeky smile. Before I could say anything, Izumi jumping out of my arms and grabs Katsuki's 2 fingers. "This is Yuki," she said happily. "Katsuki," I muttered, and their smiles faltered. "And Shima," She points to Kirishima as Katsuki placed her on his hip after she asked to be picked up. Kami, Mimi, Han and Kyo. She pointed to everyone in order and they waved. I guess they gave her their first name to make a nickname out of when she couldn't with their last names. And that's Auntie and Unsi. She pointed to Mitsuki and Masaru. It's nice to meet you guys, Ivy said happily until her eyes stopped on Katsuki. She added with a glare. I'm Eleanor. And this is my boyfriend, Jonah. Ivy, Jackie. Jackie slapped Hayes, who was too engrossed in his phone, upside his head. He rubbed the spot and glared at her. That's Hayes. Ivy said blankly, nodding over to him where he was yelling at Jackie, who was laughing at him. I facepalmed. I love your piercings. They're sick. Kaminari said. Jackie, who had pushed Hayes over the wall to the rink, flipped her hair dramatically. Thank you, I did them all myself. Bragged, and Jonah scoffed. She glared at him. Don Dash, she cried when she got her first one. He shrugged and she jumped on him. They got into a fight which led to Eleanor and Ivy having to pull them off. I turned blankly at the shocked faces. Izumi was laughing and cheering Jackie on like this was an everyday thing. Which it was. They're twins, I shrugged. Izzy ready to skate? I said, changing the subject, and she nodded viscously. She skipped to grab my hand and I walked back into the party room to put our skates on. I like them, they're fun. Mina exclaimed, walking into the room sitting next to me and putting her skates on. Yeah, they are. You can skate? I asked and she hummed in response. I used to come here with Kirishima back in middle school. She grinned. You and Kiri? I teased, wiggling my eyebrows. She snorted. No, we're just friends. Plus I don't swing that way. She corrected with a chuckle. I nodded, standing Izumi up. And I think he's into your friend. She added, pointing out the window. I say, confused, and peered over her shoulder to see him helping Hayes over the wall and blushing when he thanked him and held his hand out for him to shake. 5. Come on, Mimi, Zuzu. Izumi grabbed our hands and dragged us out the door. Despite Izumi's complaints, we waited for everyone to get their skates on to go on the rink. It seems to me that everyone knew how to skate except Kaminari, who had a death grip on Mina as she screamed at him to let go of her, Mitsuki, who tightly held onto Masaru's hand, and Bakugo, who was barely struggling and laughing at his mother. Zuzu. I hear Izumi in the distance called, and I slowed down to let her catch up to me. Where's Mama? She questioned, tilting her head slightly. Damn it, I can't just tell her that her mom forgot about her birthday, it'll break her. She couldn't make it, sweetie, I say softly, and she frowned. Oh, okay. She smiled sadly before skating off to Eleanor. I sighed. She's upset. Before I could speed up, someone crashed into me, taking us both to the floor. The hell? I groaned, rubbing my head. Sorry, Izuku, Kirishima pushed me. I look up to see Katsuki on top of me, staring down at me. I glared at him and shoved him off of me. Next time, control yourself and watch where you're going. I spat. I got off the floor and skated off. Aizu. I turned my head and was met with a hand to the back of my head. Oh wow, I glare at Eleanor, who scowled at me. That was mean of you, she said with a slight pout. He deserved it, I said, and she grabbed my arm, stopping me from skating away. But he apologized and he doesn't look that mean at all. Maybe he changed, she said. Why does everyone keep saying that? You don't know him, Ella, I said, and she let go of my arm before crossing her own. I know, but what you just did seemed like something a bully would do. I know you hate him for all he's done to you years ago, but don't stoop down to his level, she said, turning around towards the rink. She looked over her shoulder. You're better than that. And with that, she skated off. I sighed before looking down. She's right. 3. I skated onto the rink and saw Kirishima skating and swaying to the beat of the song. I saw Hayes recording himself on his phone in front of him, and an idea popped into my head. Hey, Kiri, I shouted. He turned around and I smirked at him. Whatish crash. I shoved him into Hayes. I laughed as he stuttered and struggled to help him up as they fell to the ground again. Mina crossed her arms and shook her head at me, trying to stifle a laugh as Kaminari still had a grip on her arm. Come here, Kami, I said, holding a hand out. I'll teach you. Thank you, Mina said and pushed him to me. I caught him before he can fall and she skated away to Jackie with a sporting grin. Oh my god, Cammy, stand up straight, you're going to fall if you stay bent over like that. I laughed and he stood up straight, not letting go of my arm. I proceeded to help him balance and glide so he wouldn't fall. He got the hang of it after few stumbles and wobbles. I got it. I'm a pro now. He cheered and I laughed. Hey Bakugo, look. I'm a better skater than you and I only learned in dash. Izumi zoomed past him, making him lose his balance and fall on his butt. Izumi turned to skate backwards, pointing and laughing at him. Sorry, Cammy, she said before turning back around and wrapping her arms around Masaru and holding his hands, smiling up at him. I smiled softly at the sight. I felt 2 arms drape over my shoulder and looked to see Ivy and Jonah. She's growing up so fast, Jonah said dramatically, wiping a tear from under his eye. When do you guys go back? Tonight. We may or may have not snuck out here, so we have to be back by tomorrow or we're in big trouble. Ivy briefly explained and Jonah nodded his head aggressively. Ivy smacked him. Stop being a weirdo, she said, and he pouted, rubbing his head. That's my cue. And with that he skated off. Ivy chuckled and shook her head. I felt a strong hand tug on my arm and looked down to see Kaminari smiling weakly up at me, struggling to stand. I laughed and helped him up. Your sister is evil, he said, making me laugh even more. Cammy, is it? What's your quirk? Ivy asked and Cammy blushed slightly. Electrification. What's yours? I can control the 4 elements. She grinned when his eyes widened. Really? That's cool, he said, and a wide smile. Ivy chuckled. A slow song came on. Come on, Sparky. Wadash. Ivy grabbed his arm and dragged him away. I rolled my eyes and saw how everyone was coupled up. Masaru and Mitsuki were practically slow dancing, Kiri and Hayes were holding hands, and so was Mina and Jackie, Siro and Jiro as friends, I'm pretty sure, Ivy and Cammy. One I spotted Eleanor and Jonah arguing over who gets to skate with Izumi as she was giggling at their antics. I chuckled and skated in between them and grabbed both of Izumi's hands, bending down slightly and spinning us around. I look back to see Eleanor and Jonah's shocked expressions. I stick my tongue out at them and they rolled their eyes, entwining their pinkies and looking at each other with so much love. Zuzu, you're too tall, Izumi said, and I bend down to her level, skating backwards. You got my back, Izzy. 'Cause if I skate into a wall I'm making you eat carrots, I said, and she scrunched her nose. I got you back, Zuzu, she replied, nodding. I nod back and kiss her cheek. Happy birthday, Izzy, I said, ruffling her hair. Izuku's POV. Zuzu, won't you skate with Yuki like last time? Izumi asked before gesturing me to turn. I couldn't find him, I lied, shrugging. He's in the party room, he seemed sad, Zuzu, she said. I shrugged. Zuzu, go make him happy again. He looked happy skating with you before, she said, smiling. Izzy, I whined. She frowned at me and dragged me away from the floor. We skated to the front of the party room door. She opened the door. My feet hurt so bad from skating so much, she said dramatically, catching Katsuki's attention. She was right, he looks shitty. Zuzu, don't be sad that you don't have nobody to skate with. She looked up at me with a sad smile as I raised an eyebrow at her. She turned and gasped. Yuki, so glad you're here. You can skate with Zuzu while I sit here and drink juices. She skated up to him and grabbed his pointer finger, dragging him to me. Have fun. She pushed us out and slammed the door shut. She peeked out the window and grinned at me. Izuku. I retort my attention to Katsuki and glare at him. I scoffed and grabbed his hands, skating to the rink. I sighed and looked down at my skates, not meeting his gaze. I can feel some of our friends looking at us and I look up to glare at them. I want to swat his hand away so bad, but every time I looked at the party room window, Izumi the stalker was staring dead at us. When I look up at Bakugo to see that he hasn't taken his eye off me. My glare softens slightly as I admire his features. I may hate him but can't deny the fact that he's attractive. I spot an eyelash under his eye and reach up to grab it. He flinched and blinks when my fingers grazed his skin. I grab the lash and wipe my hand on my shirt. It was bothering me, I muttered. He nodded as a blush dotted across his nose. Some dumbass from behind me thought that it'd be a great idea to lose his balance and bump into me, which made me lose my balance. I closed my eyes and braced myself for impact. With I felt a pair of hands grip my waist. I instinctively grabbed their shoulders. I opened my eyes to see Katsuki staring down at me. "5, you okay?" he asked, and I nodded, helping myself up. I look away from him with a frown hiding the obvious blush that was planted on my nose. I look up to see Kaminari staring at me with guilt and Ivy pointing a finger at me, silently laughing. I glare at her and flipped her off. I look down to see Katsuki's hands still on my hips. I look up at him, getting ready to tell him off, but his eyes were already on mine. I quickly closed my mouth and looked away from him, still frowning and the blush returning. "What is wrong with me? Stop looking at me like that, dumbass," I mumbled. I peer back up to see him tilting his head at me confusingly. I part my lips and cover my cheeks with my hands, looking down, attempting to hide the stupid blush that wouldn't go away and instead got brighter. "Stupid, handsome, hot, confused, cute fuckhead. F hate your dumba, Izuku," he whispers, and removed my hand from my face and used his index finger to lift my chin up to look at him. His dark crimson red eyes bore into mine as I stared up at him. He looked as if he was searching for something as he began to lean in. I leaned back slightly, looking from his eyes, then down to his lips. I looked back at his eyes to see them on my lips, then he met my gaze. We began to lean in. Our lips were centimeters apart. My eyes began to flutter when there was a huge, loud thud. We flinched and bumped heads. I look over to see Kaminari laying on the ground as Ivy laughed, helping him up. The slow song ended. Izuku I cut him when I pushed him away and skated off the floor and to the bathroom. I sat on the big stall floor with my knees to my chest and my face buried in my hands. I can't believe we almost kissed. Stupid Izuku, stupid Izuku. I scold myself. What is wrong with me tonight? I hate him. I hate his guts. I heard the door open, and it better not be who I think it is. Izu. You can't be in here. Like hell we can. Ivy slid under the stall along with Eleanor, Jackie, Jonah, and Hayes. We saw everything. Jackie draped her arm over my shoulder and rests her head on it. "Yeah bro, what was that?" "You were blushing and frowning at the same time," Jonah said, sitting crisscross in front of me. "You guys were about to kiss too," Eleanor added, sitting on his lap. I groaned, hitting my head against my knee repeatedly until Ivy stopped me. 𝗵𝗃𝗍𝗶𝗄. I said, my words muffled. I lift my head. "I don't know. Like, I know for a fact that I hate him, but then I'm attracted to him in a way, you know." "Physical attraction?" Eleanor questioned, and I nodded. Hayes yawns, then transforms into a cat. I picked him up and put him on my head as he fell asleep. "But I don't want to be near him. I used to like him years ago, but that went away when I moved to New York and realized how much of a PP he really was," I said briefly, putting my hood over my head. "I think you like him." Jonah shrugged, and we looked at him as if he was stupid. "You know, hate like dash. No babe, he's just physically attracted to him," Eleanor say blankly, and Jonah huffed before mumbling a whatever. "Okay, enough about me. What about you guys?" I wiggle my eyebrows as they blushed. "I really like Mina," Jackie said. "I do too, she's amazing," Eleanor said happily, and Jackie rolled her eyes. "No, idiot, I mean I like her," Jackie specified, and Eleanor made an O shape with her mouth. "Sparky's alright, he's a SHT skater." Ivy shrugged, but I noticed the blush that painted across her nose. "I'll answer for Hayes. He likes Kirishima for sure." Jonah nodded. "He has a long name," he added. Ivy face palms. "Idiot, did you not do your research? They go by their last names out here, except for if you're family or a lover. Why do you think I called Izuku Midoriya for a few months?" Ivy rolled her eyes as they gasped at her. "Really?" they said in sync, and I nodded. 𝗬𝗓𝗵𝗲 we're sorry," Jonah said, and I chuckled. "You can still call me Izuku, you know. You guys are my family." I smile, and they looked somewhat relieved and nodded. "It's time to say happy birthday," Mina said through the door, and we stood up and did a group hug before exiting the bathroom. "Blow out your candles." Everyone shouted as Izumi giggled and began blowing them out. Everyone cheered as Katsuki ran around room with Izumi on his shoulders holding onto his head laughing. He lifted her up and handed her to Eleanor, who jumping and spin her around. We ate cake and opened presents. Unfortunately, it was time for the squad to head home. Bye-bye, Izzy, we promise to visit again soon, okay? Eleanor cried, holding onto her tightly. Izumi, who was also crying, nodded. Did you guys gotta go? She hiccuped. Unfortunately, honey. Jackie said sadly. We all had a long group hug before Izumi was back in my arms. Everyone exchanged numbers and hid their goodbyes before leaving. The Bakugos helped put all of Izumi's presents in the trunk after I buckled her in her car seat. See you guys later. I waved to Mitsuki and Masaru as they got into their car and drove off. I got into mine and drove home. When we got home, I decided to take Izumi's toys in the house in the morning and carry her to her bedroom. I unlocked the door and pushed it open, turning on the lights. What I saw in front of me was something that I'd never forget. One never. Izuku's POV. I quickly laid Izumi in her bed before closing her door and stomping back into the living room. Ma was sleeping on the couch with a bottle in her hand and multiples surrounding her on the table. What the F? I shouted, turning the lights on. Ma groggily opened her eyes and sat the bottle down. She looked at me with no emotions. Oh, you guys are back. My nose scrunched in disgust at the smell of alcohol. My face was red in anger and my knuckles were turning white. I took a deep breath and let it out, giving Ma a hurtful glare. You couldn't make it to your 4-year-old's birthday because you were too busy getting drunk? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. Ma rolled her eyes. What is up with her? So what? I miss one measly birthday. I don't need to go to every one, Izuku. She raised her voice and I was taken aback. You not being there is not what hurt the most, it's the fact that you forgot. How do you forget the day your only daughter was born on? I also began to raise my voice. Tears start to fall from my eyes in anger. So what? She questioned with a glare. I sniff. Her face softened slightly. What happened to you? I asked quietly. She looks at the bottles around her and shrugged. I shook my head, storming out the room, slamming my door shut and locking it. I walk into my bathroom to remove my jewelry. I changed into a pair of shorts and slid into bed, soon falling into a deep slumber. I woke up to the sound of crying and sniffing outside my door. I slowly get up and walk over to my door. I open it and was met with Izumi sitting in front of it, holding onto her midnight plushie while staring up at me, with tears in her big green eyes. Are all the D doors locked? She sobbed. I picked her up and rocked her around as she rested her head on my shoulder and wrapped her arms around my neck tightly. I'm so sorry, Izzy, I whispered, closing the door. Mama's door was locked too. I thought you guys left me. She sighed in relief and loosened her grip on my neck as I rubbing soothing circles on her back. Why is that, Izzy? We'll never leave you. I had a bad dream that you and Mama got into a big fight and left me and never came back. She briefly explained. I laid us down on the bed. We'll never leave you, okay? I promise. I kiss her temple and she lays her head on my chest, beginning to doze off. I soon fell asleep after. The next morning my alarm clock wakes me out of my slumber. I shut it off, stifling a yawn. Izzy, time to wake up for school, I say softly, rubbing her back. She peeks her eyes open and smiles at me. Today is her first day at preschool. I had to enroll her since Ma forgot to multiple times. Morning, Zuzu. She yawns and places her hand on my cheek. I take her hand and kiss her palm before standing up with her in my arms and walking into her bedroom. She picks out a white long-sleeve, brown bear overall dress, white stockings, and brown boots. Yes, I know my baby sister has style. She gets it from her big brother, of course. 3. How about you go ahead and brush your teeth and wash your face while I take a quick shower and get dressed? I said, and she nods, running into her bathroom. I'll do your hair when I'm finished. Also make sure to have all of your stuff together. I yell after her before making my way into my bedroom and closing my door. I take a shower, brush my teeth, wash my face, moisturize, changed into my uniform, and put on some sneakers. I slip some rings on as well as my glasses. I make my way into Izumi's bedroom, When I walk in there, her hair stuff was laid on the bed. "Can you do 2 ponies?" she asked, and I nodded. She sat on her knees on the bed as I took a seat behind her. I sprayed and put leave-in conditioner in her long little curls before parting it. I don't know if that made sense, but basically she has long 3C hair. "I want these 2 bows too." She lifts her hand up and gives me 2 brown bows. I take them and put it beside me. I repart her hair and tie one side off to the side. I put a hair tie between my teeth before brushing her hair up to a high ponytail. I used gel to slick it down and put the hair tie in. I repeated the same thing with the other side before putting the bows in. "All done," I said, clapping my hands together as she hops off the bed and runs to check her hair in the bathroom. "I love it. Thank you, Zuzu." She beamed as I washed my hands. I told her to grab her bento and backpack before we left while I got my stuff too. I went back to my room to get my backpack and keys before seeing if Ma was still home. I knock on her door and opened it to see a note on her dresser. I opened it. "Morning, Izu. I'm sorry for last night. I didn't mean for any of that to happen. I promise to make it up to both you and Izumi. Lunches are in the fridge. Have a great day. Love." Of course she's gone. I sighed, crumbling the paper and throwing it away. I walked down the hall and into the kitchen to see Izumi eating a donut. "Mama effed onish," I said with her mouth full and chocolate on her face. "Don't get your clothes dirty," I chuckled, wiping the smeared chocolate off her cheek. "Ote," she replied before eating away. While she ate, I put our stuff in the car and began taking all of her toys out the trunk and into her bedroom. A while later, we were in the car singing to Beyonce on our way to drop Izumi off at preschool. We got in front of the school and I got Izumi out of her car seat. She immediately grabbed my hand and hid slightly behind me. When we entered the small school, a middle-aged woman greeted us with a warm smile at the front desk. She walked around and held out her hand for me to shake. "Hello, I'm Lucy Togata," she said. "I'm Izuku Midoriya, Izumi's older brother," I replied, and her smile got bigger when she looked down at Izumi. She kneeled. "Hello, little Izumi," she said softly with her hand out. Izumi peeked around my leg she was holding onto and stared at Togata. She hesitantly took her hand. Literally. Izumi gasped and gaped at the older woman's hand in hers. I wasn't surprised because when signing her up I gave her permission to do this. "Is this your quirk?" Izumi beamed, handing the women her hand back. The women hummed a yes. "It sure is," she confirmed. A small voice called Izumi's name and she turned. When she saw the kid, her smile extended. "Tai!" she shouted and tugged my pants until I bent down to her level. She stood on her tippy toes and kissed my cheek. "See you later, Zuzu," she exclaimed before running off. That was quick. Looks like she's already got a friend, Togata said with her hands on her hips, watching the two. "I think that's the boy she helped when we were at the skating rink." I shrugged and turned to the women. "So she hasn't gotten her quirk yet, correct?" she questioned, tilting her hand at me slightly. My stomach dropped. I completely forgot about that. She should have gotten it on her birthday. Maybe she's a late bloomer. "Correct," I said. "And she just turned 4. she asked, and I nodded. She hummed in response. "I was just making sure. A lot of the kids has already received their quirks. We have a quirk handling program where we spend 30 to 60 minutes helping the children control their quirks," she explained. I just nodded in response. "I'll be sure to let you know and sign her up to the program if she gets her quirk," I said, and Togata nodded with a smile. I waved her goodbye and called Izumi to blow her a kiss. "Are you excited for the party tonight, Midoriya? It's going to be so sick. All of Mina's party are awesome." I was sitting with Mina, Kami, Kiri, Katsuki, Siro, Jiro, and Todoroki at the lunch table. "Yeah, big group. Yeah, can't wait." I smile. "You're going?" I turned to Todoroki, who was sitting beside me. "Yeah, are you going too?" I question, and he shrugs. "I don't think my father would let me go," he said quietly, and I scoff. "Aren't you 18? He nodded. "You can do whatever the hell you want to do. If you want to go to the party, then go," I say, and he looked back down at his soba. "Hey Mido, wanna get ready together?" "Nianjiro?" Mina asked excitedly. I nodded. We decided to meet at her place at 4 p.m. The party started at 7 p.m. Katsuki, I said. 𝗕𝗏𝗵𝗲. Will Mitsuki be able to watch Izumi tonight? I'll pick her up after the party. I ask. Yeah, she wouldn't turn down any moment to spend time with your sister. He grumbled, and I turned to start a conversation with Todoroki. It was finally the end of the day, and I was driving to pick Izumi up from preschool. I walked through the familiar Worm's door and saw Togata sitting on a rocking chair reading a book with kids surrounding her. I smiled and waved when she saw me. She whispered to Izumi, who was sitting in front of her. Izumi snapped her head towards me. She scrambled up and ran to me, stumbling a bit. I picked her up and spun her around as she giggled around, her arms around my neck and her legs around my hips. Hello to you too, Izzy. I laughed. Did you have fun today? I questioned, and she nodded. You can sign her out here. I turned to see Togata's hand on the counter tapping on a sheet of paper. I turned my head to give her a really look, and she shrugged with a playful smile. I put Izumi down, and she ran up to a boy with silver/white hair, eyes the same color, and gave him a hug. I signed her out, and Togata's hand gave me a thumbs up before running to its owner. I threw Togata an playful smile and waved as Izumi hooked her hand in mine. We got to the car, and I buckled Izumi up. The whole ride home she non-stop talked about her new friend she met at the skating rink. Apparently he's Togata's son, Tyson Togata. Plus we pulled in the driveway and I saw Ma's car parked. Good, she's home. I got Izumi out and unlocked the front door. Izumi immediately ran in but paused in the living room. I walked in and looked at her confusingly. When I looked up, my face dropped. Izumi scrambled to my side and held onto my hand. Who the F are you? I spat. Izuku's POV, who the F are you? I spat. I put my hand protectively around Izumi's head and pulled her behind me as she gripped my leg. A guy sat down beside my ma with his hand on her knee. Ma stared at me blankly as she blew out smoke from a cigarette, a literal cigarette, before taking a swig of beer. I'm Dash, I interrupt him. I don't care, get the hell out of my house. I snapped, glaring at the man as he quickly got up, slipping his boots on. He scurried off to the door, closing it behind me as Ma stood up with an emotionless look in her face. Go to my room. I whisper to Izumi and she nods, running to the hall. Ma, I sigh as she takes another drag of her smoke. I walk up to her and snatch the cigarette. She blew it in my face. I began to cough, making my way into the kitchen and throwing the cigar out. The hell is wrong with... I coughed, narrowing my eyes at her. She shrugged. Why are you acting like this? Is it because of Dad? I ask, and her face suddenly turns red out of pure anger. Don't speak of him. She yelled, and I take a step back. She's never yelled at me before. Ma, please, you have to stop. You have 2 kids you have to take care of, soon only 1. You know he wouldn't want this. Do you need help? I could call Dash. I pause when I feel a stinging sensation on my cheek. I slowly lift my hand to touch it and wince at the burn. How dare you? She spat, staring at me with pure anger. Why you slapped me? Ma Dash, I stammered. She interrupted me. Why you ungrateful brat? You always Dash. She slurred her words as I stared down at her with pity. Ma, you should lay down. I say, cupping her cheek and wiping away a stray tear. I drape her arm over my shoulder and help her to her room. I laid her down in her bed before tucking her in and kissing her cheek. I sit water and painkillers on her stand with a note. Make sure to take these when you wake up. I'm going to a party tonight. Izumi will be at the Bakugo's and I'll pick her up after. Zuku. I made my way to the living room and threw away beer bottles, both empty and full, before spraying the house with Febreze to kill the stench. When I turned around, I see Izumi peeking around the hallway corner with tears streaming down her freckled cheeks. I walk up to her with a sad smile and picked her up as she wrapped her arms around my neck and her legs around my waist. I sit her down on my bed and wipe her tears away. She clung onto my shirt when I tried to walk away and let out a loud hiccup. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, she sobbed, and I grabbed her temples, laying her down on her back. Shoo, she didn't hurt me. Deep breaths, okay? I cooed, blowing on her eyelids softly. Her eyes began to flutter as she took deep breaths. 123, I blew softly on her eyelids. Her breathing got steady when she sighed and kept her eyes closed. I kissed her eyelids and wrapped my arms around her small frame. "You okay?" I asked softly. "Okay." She nodded. I kissed the crown of her head, wiped her remaining tears. "I'm going to a party tonight, so I'm going to take you to Auntie Mitsuki and Uncle Musser's house, okay?" She nodded, still looking a bit upset. "Would you like to help me pick an outfit?" I asked happily, and she beamed while aggressively nodding her head. I chuckled and helped her off the bed. "I'm going to bring out my jewelry box and you can pick an outfit out of my drawer while I take a shower. Sounds good?" "Yep." She beamed. I walk into my bathroom and take my jewelry box and some perfumes to Izumi, who was already rummaging through my drawers and closet, before going back into the bathroom and stripping out of my clothes. After washing my body and hair, I got out of the shower. I put on the strawberry lotion and deodorant before changing into shorts and a t-shirt. I packed my makeup bag and walked out the bathroom. "All done," Izumi happily announced. I decided to have her put the outfit in my duffel bag and surprise me when I get to Mina's place. With my eyes closed, I handed her my makeup bag and opened my eyes when I hear the zipper close. "There isn't a clown costume in there, right?" I asked suspiciously, and she giggled, shaking her head. "Okay," I said, slipping on my slides and taking Izumi's hand in mine. I grabbed my phone and keys before turning my room light off and closing the door. Izumi went back into her bedroom to grab a few things before we left the house. I dropped Izumi off at the Bakugo's, then set off to Mina's. I parked in front of her house and grabbed my duffel bag before locking the door and walking to the front door. I knocked, and a few seconds later a hyper Mina opened the door. "Hey Dash," I didn't get to finish my sentence when she grabbed my forearm and dragged me through the door. "Me Dash." I was then dragged up a flight of stairs and into a hot pink and black tiger striped themed bedroom. It was mostly empty, but then again she lives on campus. "What's up Midoriya?" Jiro, who was laying on her back with her feet propped up on the wall, greeted. I waved with a smile, sitting my bag on a furry black chair. Mina clapped her hands together. "I'm so excited." "Are you excited?" "I'm excited." "Oh, drinks. I'll be back." Jiro, turn on some music," she said before running out the room. "You sure she hasn't started the party before everyone got here?" I jokingly asked, and Jiro shot me an amused smile before turning some music on. "Play whatever you please too." I decided not to drink until the party. I'd rather take a shot then, because I still had to pick Izumi up. Mina took one too many shots and was jumping up and down on the bed as Jiro face-bombed, scolding her for drinking too much before the party. "We should start getting ready." Mina jumped off the bed. "Me first," she hollered before running into her walk-in closet. "She's wasted already." Jiro sighed, face-palming, and I chuckled. We talked about her not knowing what to choose between becoming a hero or musician while Mina changed. "How do I look?" Mina stood in front of the closet door in a white long-sleeve turtleneck, black skirt, white Air Forces, and thigh-high black and white socks. She had a gold necklace that said, "Pinky," hanging from her neck. "Too hot and casual." 101 𝗬𝗓-1 gorgeous. I screamed from the top of my lungs, interrupting whatever disrespectful Jiro was going to say. "One." Mina giggled and clapped her hands together. "Hey, Jiro, your turn." Mina grabs Jiro's arm and what I'm guessing is her bag and shoved her into the closet. Several impatient minutes later, Jiro comes out. "Be who you are." Jiro comes out the closet and shoved her hands into her red and black leather jacket, looking away with a slight blush across her cheek. She wore a red CRP top, red choker, black biker shorts, fishnets, and black lug sole combat boots. "So hot." "Jiro, have I ever told you how hot you were?" Mina said loudly, taking another sip of whatever was in her cup. I smiled at her and slowly took the drink away. "Yeah." Jiro looked away with a small blush. "You Dash." Mido's turn. Mina say excitedly and pushed me into the closet. "Let's see what Izumi got me," I mutters, opening the duffel bag. So I see she decided to make me straight for a night. When I put on the light blue button-up shirt, dark blue khakis, black dress shoes, and brown belt. I looked in the mirror and frowned. I look like an old man. It doesn't even match. What the hell? I angrily opened the closet door and the girls' eyes snapped to me. They stared, blinking repeatedly at me. Oh, I am so having a long talk with Izumi right now, for a matter of fact. I ignored the girls' lingering eyes and snatched my phone off the nightstand and dialed Mitsuki's number. After a few rings she answers, and giggles are heard from the other side of the phone. Izumi - there's another bag in there, it was a joke, I promise Zuzu, she said before hanging up. I rolled my eyes, ignoring the girls and entering the closet. I looked through the bag and found another bag looking inside. Better. I exit the closet in a black CRP top and black ripped jeans that showed my abs and V-line. I wore a red belt, my red sneakers, and silver circular glasses. I had black rings, bracelets, and layering silver chains. The girl's jaw dropped. Oh, my God. Midoriya, I can't breath, I'm going to faint. Mina fake faints dramatically, and Jiro catches her rolling her eyes. I chuckle, shaking my head. Makeup time. She squealed, standing up straight. I did Mina's makeup, which was an eyeliner look, mascara, red lipstick, and some blush. Jiro decided to only wear eyeliner, she only wears makeup for special occasions. We set up the house and soon enough people began showing up. The group got here, except Bakugo, who stopped to use the bathroom upstairs. An hour later and the house was filled with moving, sweaty bodies. People were dancing, couples making out in corners, others getting drunk playing cup pong. I was currently sitting with Mina, Cammy, Kiri, Jiro, and Siro in a secluding area talking about anything that comes to mind. Mina was sitting on Jiro's lap, drunk out of their minds, along with Cammy, who was laughing, laying on the top part of the sofa with his leg and arm hanging off one side, Siro standing behind him to make sure he doesn't fall, Kiri laying his head on Mina's lap facing up, and me sitting beside her with Kiri's legs on my lap. Baku bro is taking forever, Kiri groaned, playing with Mina's curls. Yeah, wasn't he supposed to be going to the bathroom? It's been almost an hour. Siro added. Hey Midoriya, have I ever told you how adorable your freckles are? Mina giggled, reaching over and poking my cheek. No, you haven't. I replied, entwining our fingers. Well, your freckles are adorable. She cooed, squeezing my hand. I chuckled. Guys. Cammy shouts, we all turn to him. I have an idea. He points out. No. Last time you had an idea we ended up in jail and Sensei Aizawa had to bail us out. And that was not fun. Siro explained and Cammy stared at him stupid. He blinked. Before laughing and snorting, oh yeah, he snorted before slamming his head back down on the couch. I'm going to grab some water bottles, I said with a laugh before walking to the crowded kitchen. I grab some bottles of water and make my way through the sweaty bodies. I pause when I see a familiar white and red split hair in the distance. I make my way towards the sitting figure, forgetting all about the drunkies I was supposed to be getting water for, and stopped in front of Todoroki. He was sitting alone, staring intently at something in the distance. Todoroki being a stalker. I joked, chuckling, and his eyes snapped to me. Hello Midoriya. Are you having a good time? He turns his body towards me, nervously running his hand through his hair. Yeah, what were you looking at? I turn to the direction he was looking around. He shrugs and stares at the same direction. I follow his gaze. She's pretty, I said, and he nodded. He was staring at a girl with long light black hair and piercing yellow eyes. She wore a crisscross backless light blue dress that reached her knees and black Baylor boots. She was holding a red plastic cup in her hand, laughing at something the girl next to her said. She looks somewhat familiar. You should go talk to her, I suggested, and he shook his head, not taking his eyes off her. She'll be mad at me. You know her? He nodded. I never met her in person, but she popped up on my Instagram feed and I found her cute, so I followed and messaged her. We've been talking for 3 months, he explained. My eyes widened. What the hell? Go to her. I push him, he shakes his head. No, she doesn't know it's me and she'll be mad when she finds out, he explains. I furrow my brows. Wait, what? He blew out a puff of air and starts explaining. I have another account so I can get away from all of the notifications on my main. I don't have any pictures and my profile picture is of a candy cane. I chuckled and he glares at me. I cleared my throat. Continue, right? She's been asking to see my face and know who I really am, and I've been ignoring and avoiding her, so I think she's mad at me, and she'll be even more mad to find out that she's been talking to some scar-faced weirdo. He mumbled. I smack him. Ow. He narrows his eyes at me, rubbing his head. That'll so stupid to do. You're literally the most hottest guy in school with a great personality. I told him. He blinked at me. I'm always told that I have no personality or a humor. Now he just made it depressing. Well, if you two have been talking for 3 months, she has to like you. Have you guys flirted? I asked. He looks up in thought. I don't know. He says, I facebumped. Sweet dense angel. Well, you look like a creep just staring at her like she's a piece of meat. I shrugged and he turned his gaze to me. I don't know how. He said. To talk to her. I questioned and he nodded. Have you guys only talked on Instagram? He nodded again. I smirked. Say, hey cutie, let me get your number, shawty. I said in a deep voice, jokingly. Todoroki tilted his head in confusion before hesitantly standing up and walking towards the girl. To do dash. I try running after him when someone bumps into me, blocking my path of the half and half boy. Once I have already caught up to him, she had a look of utter confusion. I swear, hi, she said in a questioning tone, tilting her head slightly. Todoroki began looking around. For me. I go to grab his arm when someone pulls me back. I turn to see a stinky group of drunk teens trying to get me to dance with them, thinking I'm someone else. Oh, you Imma smack someone, 𝗧𝗂𝗧𝗵𝗲. Let me get yo number, shorty, Todoroki stammers, looking confused himself. On the F worse, I'm going to 𝗧𝗂𝗧𝗔 myself, holy 𝗧𝗧𝗔. I finally hook onto his arm, pulling myself to him. Ha. He's joking, I swear. Didn't I dash? How do I get both myself and him out of this? I didn't think he was going to literally go up to her and say that. We told you, Tana, the purple-haired girl teased, wiggling her eyebrows. I'm Aiko, she added, holding her hand out. I gaped at the purple-haired girl. Oh, sorry, my quirk is super hearing, so I kind of heard your conversation. Sorry for eavesdropping. So you knew I was joking? I questioned, narrowing my eyes slightly. She nodded. I sighed in relief. Thank F, because this was going to be an awkward conversation. I'm Sarana, but you can call me Sora. The girl with brown hair said timidly. I nodded, turning to Todoroki. Where'd he go? I huffed and held a finger up to the girls stalking towards Todoroki, who was going back to his original spot. Come on, dumbass. I grab his arm, trying to drag him to Tana. He uses his quirk to freeze himself in place. I narrow my eyes at him and turn to see Sora standing slightly away from Aiko, who was trying to get Tana to stay in her spot while they walked off. She thinks you're cute too, dumb nut. Now. Talk to her and confess dash. I tug his arm, but he doesn't move in the slightest. I glance to see Tana now standing awkwardly alone, looking around, taking sips out of her cup. No, I embarrassed myself. Her friend knew. It's finey, and I'm sorry, I didn't think you'd actually do it. Now come on. No dash. Todoroki, if you don't unfreeze yourself, I'm going to stick my scythe up your dash. Okay, fine. He said hesitantly, melting the ice. I smile, taking him to Tana. Sorry it took us long. I smile at her before looking up to glare at Todoroki. It's fine, she replied before peering up at Todoroki as he stared down at her. Moments has passed and they hadn't shared a word. I nudged Todoroki harshly in the stomach and he winced in pain. Shoto Todoroki. He held his hand out to shake. She takes it before immediately retracting her hand, shaking it, muttering, hot, hot, hot. I glare at Todoroki. Sorry, he muttered. Well, you two children get to know each other more. Oh yeah, I'm Izuku Midoriya, okay bye. I exclaimed, before whispering to Todoroki. Confess. I turn and run out of that awkward situation. I meet back up with the group and hand them their water bottles. They asked what took me so long, but I shrug it off. I'm going to take my stuff to the car real quick, I'll be back. I said. They nodded and looked at Cammy as he asked yet another stupid question. Is water really wet? Wait dash, I get my duffel bag out Mina's room and push my way past dancing bodies. I finally make it outside and to my car. Plus I unlock it and throw my bag in the passenger seat. When I closed and locked the door back, I bumped into a hard chest when I turn around. Oh sorry dash. I pause when I look up to see Crimson Red staring down at me. Oh for goodness sake. 𝗧𝗵𝗲. Oh sorry dash. I pause when I look up to see Crimson Red staring down at me. Izuku, he says lowly, sending shivers down my spine. 1. Katsuki. I reply looking down at my shoes. He lifts my chin up with his thumb and index finger and I turn my head away from him, glaring. Sorry, he mumbled. I want to talk. He added. I crossed my arms. I don't. I said, turning on my heel when he grabbed my wrist. I closed my eyes and sighed, turning back to face him. He loosens his grip on my wrist before letting go. Talk. I spat. He runs a hand through his blonde locks. When you left 3 years ago dash. Tut tut tut. No, nope, that's enough. I said sternly. Please. He pleaded, his eyes desperately searching mine. Fine. I huff with a glare. When you left, I'll admit I didn't care. He paused before continuing. I thought that it was for the best because you were going to be in a safer place than Japan. He finished and I raise an eyebrow. What is he talking about? Izuku, I didn't bully you because I thought you were weak and pathetic. Every insult I threw at you were all lies. I guess I was trying to protect you in a way. He gulped, running his hands down his face. When you told me you were quirkless but still wanted to be a hero, I was angry. I didn't want my best friend to get hurt because he was reckless. At the time I thought that it was impossible and too dangerous for a quirkless to become a hero. So I bullied you. He looked back at me with tears on the brim of his eyes. Why, you obviously proved me wrong. He said in almost a whisper, swiping his eyes harshly. Is he about to cry? I know that it was stupid and mean, but I didn't want you to get hurt, so I thought it was the only way to keep you safe, was to wreck your dream. I ended liking you, a lot. I looked up to you, even if you are quirkless. You were still kind and always smiling, you followed and praised me when I beat you down. You are so smart and pretty and I dash. He paused to take a breath. I gaped at him. I'm so sorry Izuku. When you moved away, Mom came in my room to tell me and interrogate me on why you didn't want to see me before you left. At first I acted dumb and like I didn't care, but I did. The boy I liked had moved across the world and hated me. I confessed. And I regret everything I've done. He then pulled out a familiar small notebook. Did you dig that out the trash? I questioned, scrunching my face at it. Before I left campus I saw you standing in front of the koi fish fountain, and I watched you throw it away. It broke my heart because you looked so upset. I couldn't just walk away, so when you were out of sight I told the boys to leave without me and went to grab it. It was wet and burnt, so I bought another notebook and copied all the notes I could off the old one. I was going to give it to you that weekend, but, he explained and took the notebook. I flipped through the pages, stopping at a few. Everything was there. Thanks, I muttered, looking down at the notebook. I can't believe he told me all of this. He looked up to me and had a crush on me. He liked me. But he still hurt me. He was the cause of my depression along with a lot of other people who made my life a living hell. But, Izuku, he lifts my chin with his thumb and pointer finger to meet his gaze. I avert my eyes away from his. He lowers his gaze as my eyes flicker up to his. He moves his hand to my cheek, rubbing soothing circles around my freckles. It took everything in me not to lean into the touch. The others, I was cut off when his lips brushed against mine, his breath in sync with mine. I look into his crimson red eyes before looking down at his lips. I want to, but I don't. I can't. But I will. I stood on my tippy toes and wrapped my arms around his neck, leaning in. Before our lips met, stupid Deku. Look, it's the quirkless freak. You're just a useless Deku. A error in the system. It's worthless. Look at it cry. Pray that you'll have a quirk in you next life and take a swan dive off a roof. I tighten my grip around his neck and put my head in the crook of his neck, sobbing violently. He flinched back before wrapping his arms around my waist and rubbing my back. I'm so sorry. He whispered. It'll be okay. He promised. No, it won't be. I want my dad. I pushed him away, wiping away my tear aggressively. I was angry. My lip quivered as I scowled at him. "FF you." I screamed at him. He stood there staring blankly at me. "It's all your fault. It's dash," I sobbed, covering my face with my hands. I probably look like a hot mess. At least I'm still hot though. 3. I felt arms wrap around me and a hand run through my hair. He puts his chin on top of my head as I cried into his chest. "Why, you're quirkless." "Yep. And I'll still become a hero no matter what." Silence. Haha. I cried harder into his chest, balling my hand into his shirt, pulling him in as the other tried pushing him away. Never did his grip loosen. "Mommy, do you think I could still become a hero too?" Silence. "I'm sorry, Izu." "I'm so sorry, Izuku." He whispered. "Hi, Papa." "Hey, champ. I have to go patrol in a few. What's up?" "Well, last week Mommy and I went to go to the doctor's to find out my quirk." "Really? What is it? Is it the same as mine? Or your mother's? Or maybe both?" "No, Papa, I'm quirkless." Silence. "Oh, is that all? Why, you not mad, right?" "Of course not, Zuku. Why would I be mad at you for something that's completely out of your control?" "I dunno. Do you still want to become a hero?" I don't know. Everyone has already given up on me. Even Mommy and Kaken. If you still want to become a hero, let me know, okay? I'll back you up, son." "Okay, Papa." I smile. "I love you, Zuku. I'll talk to you soon, yeah." "I love you, be safe. Always." I finally calmed down. I held onto Kaken's damp shirt like my life depended on it. I didn't notice that we were sitting on the ground and I was on his lap sitting sideways. I exhaled, resting my head on his chest. "Don't hold grudges, Zuku." I hear a voice say. I didn't bother to lift my head and search for the voice. I already knew who it belonged to. "I forgive you, Kaken." "Izuku's PV, my eyes are all red and puffy." I grumbled. "You still look great though," Katsuki responded, dabbing a wet tissue under my eye. After a while of sitting on the cold concrete, Katsuki took me to the bathroom to freshen up. We went back to the group and we all began dancing, laughing, and making fun of Kaminari's terrible dance moves. It only lasted for a few hours until it was 12:32 a.m. and I decided to leave to pick Izumi up because she had preschool in the morning and it was still a school night. I said my goodbyes and got in the car before driving off to the Bakugos. I park, not bothering to turn the engine off, and walked to the front door, ringing the doorbell. A few seconds later, a confused, tired-looking Mitsuki opened the door. Her eyes were puffy and red. Has she been crying? "Izuku, what are you doing here?" She yawned, and I furrowed my eyebrows at her. "I'm here to pick Izumi up." I say more like a question. She tilts her head. "Inko came a while ago to pick her up." She muttered. "At what time?" I asked. "Around 7:50, she replied, and I nodded. "Oh, okay, good night," I said, waving as she gave me a soft, sad smile, closing the door. "I'll ask her about it tomorrow." I got into the car and took a deep breath before driving off. I unlock the front door and push it open to a dark, quiet house. I walk into the living room to see Ma with an empty bottle of beer on the table in front of her and one half full in her hand. She was asleep. I thought I threw those away. I grabbed the bottles and threw them away. I enter the kitchen to see a carton of milk, bread, cheese, and sandwich meat on the floor with the fridge slightly opened. I furrow my eyebrows, cleaning the stuff off the floor. I walk down the hall to Izumi's room to see it cracked open. I peeked in and she wasn't in there. I walked to my room to see the door also cracked open and walked inside to see Izumi half asleep sitting on floor with her knees brought up to her chest. A half-eaten sandwich sitting beside her. Her eyes squint open and glanced up a bit. They snapped open when she saw me. She wobbly got up and ran to me with open arms. I picked her up and cradled her in my arms. "I'm hungry, Zuzu," she interrupted, and I nodded, walking into the kitchen, glaring at Ma's sleeping figure as I passed the living room. "Okay, babes, what do you want?" I questioned, carrying her to the kitchen. She shrugged. "Katsudon." I questioned, sitting her on the counter. She nodded, rubbing her eyes. The thing with Izumi is that she can't sleep on an empty stomach. If I stayed out all night, she probably would have stayed up until I got back. Which makes me wonder, Why didn't you ask Ma to cook something for you? I did. She told me to wait, and I did for a long time, and I came to remind her again, and she was drinking the nasty smelly stuff. She's mean when she drinks that, so I waited until she was done. When I went to remind her again, she was asleep and I didn't want to wake her up. She explained. Okay, Izzy, what happened when she picked you up from Auntie Mitsu's? She was banging on the door. Auntie opened it and Mama yelled at her to give me back. They got into a fight and now I can't see Auntie and Uncy no more. She sniffed and I hugged her. Yes, you will, I promise. I said softly as she hugged me back. Yummy. She said towards the food on the stove. Yeah. It'll be done in a bit. Go get changed into your pajamas, Kay. She nods before running into the hallway. I hear a groan from the living room and my smile dropped. I heard footsteps bombarding towards the kitchen. I turned to the stove. Have you been throwing my stuff away? Ma asked, her voice dripping with venom. I can tell she's still drunk. I ignore her. Izuku. She said sternly. I can hear her footsteps coming closer to me. I ignore her again. She harshly grabs the hoop ear piercing that's on the helix of my ear and turns me to face her. I yelp in pain, pulling her hand from me. You hear me talking to you? She yells. I hold my throbbing ear as tears began to sting my eyes. I give her a pained look. You shouldn't be drinking while being depressed, Ma. Look at what happened. You've completely changed. I said as she stared at me with so much hatred. Worry about yourself, was all she replied with before walking to the refrigerator and taking out a bottle of beer. I grimaced before walking up to her and snatching the bottle. Ma, please don't, I pleaded. She glared at me. Izuku, I'm trying so hard not to hurt you because you're my son and I love you. You don't snatch from the person who raised you. Give it back. She sneered. I shake my head, taking a step back, tears flowing from my eyes. Ma, please. I pleaded again. She marched up to me and slapped me in the face. I stood there stunned. She took the bottle back before giving me one last glare and walking back into the living room. I keep my head down, turning back to the stove and turning it off. I take out a small bowl and chopsticks. When I turn back around, I'm met with Izumi standing around the corner of the kitchen staring at me, with tears in her eyes. I sigh before turning around, putting some of the dish in the bowl. I walk up to Izumi, taking her hand and walking my bedroom, shutting and locking the door. I lift her onto the bed and took the bed table from under it, sitting it in front of her and then the food. I'm going to take a shower, I mumbled before walking towards the bathroom door. Zuzu. Izumi called quietly. I stop in front of the door, refusing to look at her. I don't want her to see the mark on my face. I hummed. What happened to Mama? She asked. She hurt you again, I saw. She added. I made her do it, Izzy. I shouldn't have made her mad. I grumbled. Before she could respond, I opened the bathroom door and closed it behind me. When I look in the mirror and touch my now bruised cheek. This is the same one she slapped yesterday. I look at my ear, it's as red as Kirishima's hair. I sigh and video of my clothes before turning the water on, waiting for it to get warmer and stepping in. My alarm goes off and I shut it off. I barely got any sleep. A few hours after Izumi fell asleep, she woke me up at 4:30 am crying because she had a nightmare about Ma hitting me. It took about 30 minutes to get her back to sleep. I looked down at Izumi's sleeping figure on my chest. Her eyes were puffy and her arms were tightly wrapped around me. I don't want to wake her up yet, so I gently lay her down beside me and walk to my drawer, taking out my uniform. After doing my morning routine, I enter Izumi's bedroom to pick out an outfit for her. I don't have makeup or anything like that, so if anybody asks about my bruise, I'll make something up. While getting out her hair stuff, I hear my phone vibrating on her nightstand. I pick it up and answer without looking at the caller ID. Hello. Hello, Midoriya, it's Togata. Oh hey, what's up? I replied happily. I couldn't reach you yesterday, but there was small villain attack near the school and they got into it and completely trashed it trying to get away. She said briefly. Oh, is shoot, can I cuss? I asked and I hear her laugh on the other side of the phone. Sure yeah. Anyways, school is cancelled today. Everything should be good by Monday. She explained. Oh okay. I said nervously. Well, I'll see you Monday. Have a good day. You too. Seriously. What am I supposed to do? I can't leave her here with Ma, and I don't want to cause any trouble for Mitsuki. And I can't miss school. I finished laying her hair stuff and walked back into my room. I walk over to Izumi's sleeping figure and rub her back. Hey Izzy, I say softly. She squirms before squinting her eyes open. She grabs my hand. You want to go to school with me? Preschool is cancelled, I said, and she perks up. How does she do that? Yeah, she said excitedly. Okay, go get changed while I pop some toast in the toaster, I said. She nods before running to her bedroom. I checked to see if Ma was here and saw her sleeping in her bed. I left her a note saying I went to school with Izumi before going to the kitchen and putting a slice of bread in the toaster. I waited for it to pop up before putting it on a plate and spreading jelly on it. Zuzu, can you put my hair in a pony? Izumi said from around the corner. I nodded and brought the plate to her room. I gave her the plate of toast and began putting her hair in a high ponytail. Done. I beamed as she turned to me with a bright smile. Yay. We left the house and I buckled Izumi in her seat. We got to UA 30 minutes early, so I decided to give my friends a call. After one ring, Hayes picks up. Hello dash, Izuku. Bae. What's up shawty? Hi. Hey Izu. They all yelled at the same time. I almost got whiplash. I smile and wave at the camera before turning it to Izumi, who had just crawled to the front passenger seat. My baby hi. Eleanor squealed as Izumi giggled, taking my phone. I guess I'll let her have her time with them. It's been 10 minutes and Izumi is telling them all about preschool and her friend Tyson. Oh, sounds like Bug got a crush, Jonah teased, and Izumi shook her head giggling. No, oh, he's just a friend. She laughed and Jonah rolled his eyes playfully while the girls continued to ask Izumi questions and teasing her. And I am so sorry if I triggered something in you from that line loudly crying 3. Here Izumi, let me talk to them real quick before we have to go in, okay? I say, and she nods before saying her goodbyes. I step out of the car, walking away from it to where I know she can't hear me and I can still see her. So what's up with your Izu? Jonah asked, an eyesight. Not so good, I said sheepishly, and everyone squeezed into the camera giving me questioning sad looks, even Hayes. What happened, Izu? Eleanor asked. Concern filled her voice. Ma and I have been getting into a lot of arguments. She's been drinking. And, I face the camera to my cheekbone. A few seconds later I hear gasps. Mama Inko did that? Jonah asked softly, and I nod with a sad soft smile. She got mad because I took the beer bottle away from her. She slapped me twice in front of Izumi, reason why she's here at school with me instead of with Ma at home alone. I briefly explain. Izumi already told them that preschool was cancelled today. What about Mitsuki? Jackie asked. Her and Ma got into an argument. Izumi isn't allowed to see her anymore, though I won't let that happen. Izumi loves her auntie and uncie, I said, chuckling at the way I said uncle. The other side of the call was filled with ahs and how cuties, and something happened with Katsuki. What did that motherf-dash? You almost said Kaken. I know you did spill. Eleanor beamed and I laughed. Well, I explained everything that happened. And then I forgave him and called him Kaken. I breathed and they were left stunned. Wow, maybe he isn't as bad. If you forgive him then I forgive him, Purdy. What she said. I chuckled. I looked at the clock and saw that the bell was going to ring and ring. I said my goodbyes and I love yous before hanging up the call. I walked back to the car and opened the back door, grabbing mine and Izumi's backpacks. I opened the passenger door for Izumi and she hopped out, grabbing my hand and sticking to my side. As soon as we got to the front door, a stupid beach with skates zoomed past Izumi, scaring the SHT out of her. She flinched harshly, turning to my front with her hands up, asking to be picked up. I glared at the guy who gave us a pitiful smile before picking her up and placing her on my hips. The late bell then rung. Oops, I guess we're late. Before entering the classroom, I gave Izumi a small pep talk. I pushed the door open and entered the classroom. Izuku's POV, all eyes were on us. Why are you late, Midoriya? And who's that? Sensei Aizawa asked boringly. I'm late because I'm late, and this is my little sister Izumi. Nobody could watch her, so I brought her with. I shrugged. How old is she? He asked. For I replied. Aizawa's eyes flicked from me to my sister. He then walks out of the classroom, leaving us all shocked and confused. Hi Izumi, Mina said happily from her seat. Izumi lifted her head to look at her before hiding it in the crook of my neck again. Probably because of all of the new faces. Shy around new people, I said with a shrug. Hey Tiny, Katsuki greeted. When Izumi heard his voice, she perked up and began bouncing to be put down. I put her down and she ran to Katsuki with open arms. Everyone gaped at the two. Yuki, Izumi said excitedly. Katsuki ruffled her hair, messing it up a bit. I'ma smack him. I walked to my seat and sit down, pulling my old notebook out. I flipped through all my old drawings and analysis. Wow, I'm pretty smart. A little while later of watching Katsuki and Izumi playing patty cake and everyone staring at them in awe, the door opened. Aizawa walked in holding a hand of a little girl who looked to be 8 or 9 with blue-gray hair, red eyes, and a medium-sized horn on the side her head. I gave him a confused look and he nodded towards Izumi. I stand up and pick Izumi off Katsuki's desk, walking towards the pair. Eri. Uraraka beamed. Hi Ochako. Eri said back happily. Eri, this is Midoriya and his little sister Izumi. Aizawa started. Izumi stared down at the girl gripping the back of my shirt as Eri beamed at her. Midoriya, Izumi, this is my daughter Eri. He said boringly. It's nice to meet you guys. Izumi want to play heroes with me. And Auntie Midnight. She promised to play in her break. Eri asked excitedly. Izumi looked shockingly at the other. Why no Midnight? Izumi asked timidly as I put her down. Eri nodded and held her hand out. Izumi happily took it and they ran out the room. Bring her back before lunch. I yelled after them. I hear Eri holler back in the distance. I looked to Aizawa. Maybe the bum isn't that bad. Well, thanks, I said, and he nodded. What happened to you, cheek? He asked. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Izumi sometimes sleep in my bed, let's just say she's a rough sleeper. I chuckled nervously. I don't think he bought it because he narrowed his eyes at me. A 4-year-old did that? He questioned and I nodded. First she slapped me and then kicked me 3 times. I nodded before making my way to my seat. I glanced back at him to see his eyebrows raised at me. I sit down in my seat as Aizawa started the lesson. 20 minutes in the lesson, I see some people start to doze off, maybe because of the party last night. Katsuki's head began to fall forward before he flinched awake. He started to doze off again, instead his head backwards. I flicked his forehead. Stay awake but before you get in trouble, I whispered, and he glared at me. He glanced at Aizawa and then back me, before shutting his eyes. I stare at his sleeping figure. Should I plug his nose? 3. I played with strands of his hair before the bell rang. Everyone was getting up to leave for lunch, except Katsuki. I stuffed everything in my backpack and draped it over my shoulder before sitting on my knees on the chair and leaning over his face. I plugged his nose and watched as a few seconds later him scrunch his nose. He swept my hand away and peeked open one eye, glaring daggers at me. Wakey wakey, I cheered. He kept the same bored expression on his face before darting his eyes to my lips. He reaches his hand to the nape of my neck before tilting his head up and kissing my forehead. He stood up, grabbing his backpack, exiting the room. I sat there astonished. When I finally get up, walking out of the classroom, I'm met with a hyper Izumi who's on Katsuki's hip and Eri who's on the other. Strong boy. Zuzu. I met Midnight. The bestest hero in the whole world. She said happily. I raised an eyebrow. After you, she added, reaching over to boop my nose. Okay, let's go eat, I said, and we made our way to the lunchroom. Izumi was sitting next to me, quietly slurping on her ramen, as Eri was sitting on the other side of her, happily making money. She told everyone that they had to pay her $1 to say one cuss word. Let's just say she's making a lot of money. Katsuki was constantly having to pay her because of the amount of times he yelled at the group to shut the F up. Hey Omi, have you received your quirk yet? Eri asked, and Izumi shook her head. Nope. Not yet. I hope I get it soon. She spoke. You're 4 though, right? Kaminari asked, and Izumi timidly nodded. Late bloomer. I drape my arm around her shoulder, pulling her towards me, glaring at him. Even if she doesn't receive one, there wouldn't be a single problem about it, right? I ask in a sweet, threatening tone. He puts his hand up in defense. Of course, dude. I was just asking. He smiled nervously and I nodded, looking down, kissing the crown of Izumi's head, smiling at her. What's your quirk, Eri? I ask. Rewind. She answered happily. It allows her to reverse a living individual's body back to a previous state, Jiro adds. That's cool. I said. What's your quirk? She asked me and I shook my head. I don't have one, I'm quirkless. I said, and her smile got bigger. And you got into UA hero course. How awesome. How do you do it? Are you good at fighting? Do you have a support weapon? She throws different questions at me and I hold my hand up, silencing her. I have an enchanted weapon. Speaking of that, I need to talk to someone soon. I mumbled to myself. My phone began to ring and I pull it out, looking at the caller ID. I'll be back, I said, standing and walking out the cafeteria. I answer the phone when I see nobody in the halls. Hello. Izuku, where's Izumi? I can hear her drunken slurs. She's with me. I reply, my voice spitting with venom. Ma, why are you drinking again? Bring her here. And I'm an adult, I can do what I want. No. We're at school and I can't leave in the middle of it. Bye. Before she could respond, I hang up. Anger began to build up in me. How dare she? Does she really think that I'd leave my little sister with her alcoholic mother? Don't get me wrong, I love Ma to pieces, but I don't want her hurting Izumi. She's already done it to me and there's no way of telling that she wouldn't hurt her when she begins to throw one of her tantrums over something. I slide down the smooth cream wall behind me and hide my face in my hands. I need a minute before going back in there. I can already feel tears building up in my eyes. None of this would be happening if it weren't for him. Why couldn't he stay out here in Japan? Tomura Shigaraki. I hate your F guys for what you've done. I lost my dad. And now I'm losing my mom. What a load of SHT. I try to muffle the sounds of my sobs. I'm such a F crybaby. It's pathetic. I feel like running away and starting a new life somewhere else. I hate it here, I don't want to be here anymore. But I can't leave, I have to stay here for Ma and Izumi. I need to take care of them and protect them. Like I promised Dad. I promised him. But why does it feel like I'm already breaking it? Like I'm failing to do the one thing he promised. He's probably so disappointed in me. So F disappointed. Problem child. I hear a tired monotone voice say. I refuse to look up. Problem child. The voice said more sternly. Sensei Aizawa. F off. I spat, my voice cracking slightly. I hear a sigh and then footsteps fade away. I don't know how long I've been sitting here for. I still haven't left my spot here on the ground. A few teachers asked me what was wrong, but I told them to F off or ignored them. I finally stopped crying, but I don't have the energy to get up. I don't want to lift my head and feel the cold air on my damp face. I'm probably all snotty too. I hear footsteps fade in. Problem child. Aizawa spoke. I hear someone slide down the wall beside me and then a soft tissue on my hand. I peeked up at the soft fabric and then at my exhausted teacher. He was looking the other direction. I blink at him before turning the other direction and cleaning my face and blowing my nose. He handed me a paper brown bag. I stare at him blankly. For the tissue, he said. I put the used tissue in the bag. He rolled up the bag and got up to throw it away. I stared blankly at the window in front of me. Aizawa came back and sat down beside me, staring at me. Do you want to talk about it? He asked and I scoffed. Don't act like you care. I said, glaring at him before turning away. I care about all of my student. He grumbled. Yeah, I said boringly. Didn't think heroes out here cared about the Quirkless. I sneered. You know I fight Quirkless, right? He said, and I turned to him with a confused look. My quirk isn't too flashy and it doesn't work in all situations. The only thing I have are combat skills and my scarf. He explained briefly. Oh, I said, looking down. Would you like to learn how to use it too? My son is Hitoshi Aizawa. He has a mental quirk. It also doesn't help in most situations. So him learning how to do close combat and how to use my scarf helps a lot. He's almost mastered it. You could come to our training after school in the forest. He explains, standing up. He holds his hand out to me and I grab it. He helps me off the floor. Sure, I muttered, the corner of his lip lifted. Lunch is about to end. You should go freshen in the bathroom and get your sister. He said and I nodded. Midoriya, what took you so long? Kirishima questioned with concern. Yeah bro, you were gone for the remainder of lunch, Cammy added. I ignored everyone's questions and concerned looks, grabbing my backpack and picking up Izumi, placing her on my hips. I turn to walk away when I feel a grip on my wrist. Aizu, what's the matter? Katsuki's voice was laced with concern. I shut my eyes, twisting my wrist to be let go before walking away. I entered the empty classroom and walked to my seat. I sat down, sitting Izumi on the desk. She grabbed my cheeks in her tiny hands, making look up at her. Zuzu, what's wrong? Who called? She asked. Don't worry about it, everything's okay. I smiled softly at her. She leaned over, wrapping her arms around my neck. I buried my face in the crook of her neck. Cuddles. She yawned. I nodded. She slid down to my lap, wrapping her arms around my torso. I rubbed and patted her back as she yawned sleepily. All of that running and playing must have worn her out. I placed my backpack on my desk and laid my head on it. I stopped rubbing and patting Izumi's back when I feel her arms go limp. I wrapped my arms around her so her back wasn't against the hard desk. All that crying had made me sleepy too. I slowly closed my eyes, letting sleeping consume me. Plus Izuku's POV, I wake up to the sound of cameras clicking, giggling, and shushing. I know it's not Izumi because she's still asleep in my arms, so wake my sister up and I'll chop all of your limbs up and deliver them to your homes with a very deadly note. I said and heard the room go silent. That doesn't sound very heroic, dude. I peek one eye open to glare at Kirishima. He squeaked and hid behind Mina. I feel a warm jacket fall on top of Izumi and around me. I turn to see Cats, I don't know, staring at me. Go back to sleep, it looks like you need it, he said before glaring at the people surrounding us. They took the hint and went to their respected groups. I yawned, laying my head back on my backpack. Thanks, Kaken, I murmured. There was a moment of silence. No problem, Izuku, child. Problem child. Problem child. I squint my eyes open to see Aizawa staring down at me. No Izumi in sight. I flinch up, searching the room to see nobody was in here. She's in the teacher's lounge. Come on, school's over, he said, patting my shoulder. I looked down to see Katsuki's jacket still on me. He said, keep it. Aizawa spoke and I looked up at him, shocked. I nodded, standing up before putting on the black jacket. It reached past my fingertips and almost past my thigh. I walked to the door which Sensei Aizawa was holding open for me, and followed him down the hall to a door that said, Teacher's Lounge. Zuzu, you're awake. Izumi stood up on the couch. Sitting in front of her was she doing President Mick's hair. His hair was filled with hair barrettes and mini bows. Yeah, I am, I respond as she runs to me with open arms. I pick her up, placing her on my hip. She put an arm over my shoulder and used her other to turn my face to hers. Yama said that while you train with Zawa and Toshi that I could go to play heroes with Eri at his house. She beamed and I furrow my brows. I'm Yama. I look over to President Mike, who was walking over to me holding Eri's hand. Outside of school you can call me Yamada, he said loudly. I nodded. Okay, I said, kissing Izumi's cheek and sitting her down. I'll see you later, call me if you need anything, okay? She nodded. I gave Yamada my number. Bye-bye, Zuzu, Izumi yelled, waving at me as she left the room holding Eri's hand. I waved back with a smile. Let's go, Aizawa said with a yawn. I followed him out the door. You're quite a fast learner, Midoriya, Aizawa said, handing Eri a napkin. After training we went back to the Aizawa residence to eat dinner. Aizawa said it took him years to learn how to perfect his scarf when it only took me a few hours. Even the younger Aizawa Hitoshi was impressed. Yeah, I replied. I looked at my phone and saw that it was 8:22 p.m. I need to get home soon. I've been ignoring Ma's text messages all day after our call. She would call, text, leave voice messages telling me to bring Izumi home or that when I get back I'm grounded. She texted me saying that she was sorry and that she missed us and wanted us to come home. The only reason why I'm waiting a long time to get back home is to hope that Ma is asleep by the time I get there. Thank you for the dinner, 𝗧𝗵𝗲. I said with bow before standing up with my plate. I entered the kitchen and washed my plate out. You're welcome, problem child, 𝗧𝗏 said after. I went back into the diner room to also grab Izumi's plate after she was finished. She thanked them and bowed also. Go put your shoes on, we're about to leave. I told her and she nodded, running to the door where her shoes were. Problem child. I turned to 𝗧𝗏. Yeah. If you ever need to talk you know where to find me, he said, and I nodded. Thank you. I responded, smiling softly. Bye Eri. Bye Toshi. Bye 𝗧𝗏. Bye Yama. Izumi waved everyone off while I buckled in her seat. They waved from the doorway saying their goodbyes as well. I waved at them as I got into the driver's seat. When we pull into the driveway, I looked at Izumi through the rear view mirror. She smiled at me. Izumi, I said sternly, letting her know I'm serious. When I open the door, you go straight to your room and lock the door, K. I'll get you when everything's good, I said in a serious tone. I can't hide the fact that Ma's going to pissed when we walk through that door, if she's awake, and there's no telling what she'd do. But whatever happens, I try to make sure it'll never happen again. I want her to get the help she needs before it gets worse. Is Mama going to be mad? She asked timidly. Maybe, I answered with a soft smile. But I'll make sure she doesn't hurt you, okay? I said. But what about you? She questioned and I chuckled. I'll be fine, Izzy, I said, and she nodded. I got out the car and helped Izumi out of her seat. Holding her hand tightly, we walked slowly to the front door. I hope she's asleep or sober, but I know the second option wouldn't be possible. I looked down at Izumi before pulling her slightly behind me and unlocked the door. I opened it and slipped it. Before I could push Izumi to run to her room, a glass bottle was thrown beside my head and I gasped as it shattered. I pulled Izumi away from the impact of the glass before pushing her towards the hall. I hear her little whimpers as she ran to her room, shutting the door. I didn't look away from it until I heard the lock click. The hell? I yelled. I walked farther into the living room and saw Ma staring at me with bloodshot eyes and multiple bottles surrounding her. Ma, what is wrong with you? I shouted. She could have heard Izumi. Where were you? Why weren't you answering my messages, and where is Izumi? She screamed. No. Answer my question. Why are you doing this? You need help. Let me help you. I feel tears start to fill my eyes as I stared at the women in front of me. Why, you could have hurt Izumi. I stammered. She rolled her eyes. That was your fault. If you wouldn't have taken her away from me like you did to your father. She screamed. I stared at her in shock. I didn't dash. You killed him. It's your fault he isn't here. If only you weren't a weak Quirkless wannabe. She spat. I stood there dumbfounded. Her face didn't even waver. She meant what she said. Suddenly she moved her hand. Before I knew it, a glass vase hit the side of my head, making me fall to the ground. My vision becomes blurry and both warm and cold substances run down my head and shirt. The last thing I saw was my ma looking at me in disgust before giving me one last blow to my stomach. Everything went dark. Izumi's POV, I did what Zuzu told me and ran to my room, shutting and locking the door. Did Mama use her quirk to hurt us? Did she throw the glass? I can hear her and Zuzu yelling. I think it's about me, 'cause I heard my name. Did I cause this? I don't want Mama to hurt Zuzu. He did nothing wrong. Why is Mama blaming Zuzu for Dada going away? There's nothing wrong with being quirkless. Why is she saying this? She doesn't mean it, does she? I grip my midnight toy when I hear a loud crash and something drop. Did Mama get madder and throw more glass? I hope she didn't hurt Zuzu again. Pathetic. I hear Mama say, "Where's Zuzu?" I began to cry and hold midnight to my tummy. Why is Mama being so mean? It's because of that nasty smelly drink. I have to get rid of it. It's making Mama mean. I hear my door jiggle. Is that Zuzu? Is he okay? I go to open it until I hear Mama's voice. Open the door, sweetie, please. Mama said in the nice voice. I missed that voice. But I don't want to open the door. I don't want her to hurt me. I want her to go away. Izumi baby, it's okay, open the door for Mama, she said again. I shook my head even though she couldn't see me. Open the door, you brat. She began banging on the door. I got scared, so I hid under my bed, scooting to the end and bringing my knees to my tummy, crying quietly so Mama doesn't hear. Mama was banging and screaming at me. She was calling me a lot of bad and mean words. I cover my ears. Zuzu told me to not open the door unless it's him coming to get me. Why isn't he getting me yet? I'm scared. I want Dada. Dada wouldn't have let this happen. He would protect me and Zuzu. Mama is acting like a villain. Suddenly, the banging stopped. The screaming stopped. I hear footsteps go away and then the front door slam shut. Did she leave? I want to go find Zuzu. But he told me not leave the room until he comes to get me. So I waited. Izuku's POV. When I opened my eyes, my head began to throb. My stomach hurts, my head hurts, what happened? And then the memories fade in. Izumi. I quickly try to get up but fall back down. I wince in pain as I crawl to the wall and use it to help myself up. I slowly make my way to my bathroom. I flicked the light on and saw how bloody I was. My shirt was still wet from the water in the vase and blood that went from the top of the right side of my head down to my chin. I clean and wrap myself up before taking some painkillers. I changed into a pair of shorts and long-sleeve shirt. I limp my way to Izumi's room and try to open the door. It's locked. I knock on it. Izumi, open the door, it's Zuzu. I said, no answer. Izzy, it's okay, open the door. No answer. How long was I out for? I go back into my room and got a hair clip. I lock-picked the door before throwing it open, frantically looking for my baby sister. She isn't in here. I curse under my breath before going into her bathroom and looking in the bathtub and in the cabinet underneath the sink. I run back into her room and looked under the bed. Thank God. I found Izumi under her bed, knees to her chest, holding tightly onto her favorite doll. I grab her arm, pulling her out before putting her on my lap, cradling her. She began to shake and push away. I held her tighter. Hey, it's okay, it's me, I said softly, rubbing her back. She stopped shaking and pushing before jumping up, wrapping her arms around my neck. I winced a bit but didn't push away. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, she stuttered. I shushed her, rocking back and forth. It's okay, we're okay, I said softly. She pushed away to look at my face. She touched my face and then the tape, which made me flinch slightly. She hurt you again. It's okay, Izzy, I said softly, kissing the top of her head. She looks up at me with her glossy big green eyes. She reaches a hand up to the bandage and held it. She leans up and softly places a kiss on it. All better? She asked hopefully. I nodded. Plus, all better. Izuku's POV. After what happened with Ma, Izumi changed into her pajamas and we went into my room to get some rest. We both barely got any sleep that night, so I decided to skip school and stay home with Izumi. School at this point. I kept my door locked and waited for Ma to leave to do whatever she does before getting up and making breakfast. So our Thursday was basically spent binge watching Disney movies and snacking on junk food. It's Friday morning and we're off to Izumi's preschool. We got a lot of sleep, so our morning started off pretty good. Bye-bye, Zuzu. Izumi hollered to me as I blew her a kiss and waved her goodbye. 24 minutes until the school bell rings, so I decided to ring the squad and catch them up on what's been going on. Hey Hayes, I said cheerfully, and he waved. I searched through the camera for everyone else. I'm not with everybody else right now, he croaked. He sounds sick. You okay, Hayes? I questioned, my voice laced with concern. Yeah, just a cold, that all, he replied, coughing a bit. You better get some rest. It's that DMN phone. I joked, making my voice sounding like his mother's. He let out a dry horse chuckle and rolled his eyes. Yeah, I was actually about to go to sleep until you called, he said with a slight smirk. Really? I asked, genuinely shocked. He was interrupted when there was a knock on my window. I look up to see Katsuki star glaring. I don't even know, at me through the window. I unlocked the door before looking back at Hayes. There's a Pomeranian at my door. I'll call you later, yeah. He nodded. Make sure to get lots of rest and I'll call you guys tomorrow. I have to tell you guys something. I briefly explained as the car door opened. Wait, tell us what dash. I hung up on him after kissing at the camera. I placed my phone in the cup holder and peered up to see Katsuki hovering over me. Wah dash. I was cut off by him jumping through the window, climbing over me to the passenger seat. I just got the wind knocked out of me. The hell, Katsuki? I said, glaring daggers at him as he shrugged. You're so extra. I mumbled, turning to shut the door. When are you moving into the dorms, nerd? He questioned. I'll let him calling me a nerd slide, this time. Never, gotta take care of Izumi. I said, avoiding his gaze. He leans over, putting an arm on the center console while using his other hand to turn my face towards his. What's the matter? He asked, softly caressing my cheek. I gaped at him. Does he really care? I shook my head. Everything's fine. I said with a crooked smile. You're lying. You can't look someone in the eyes and lie to them, and plus your smile didn't reach your eyes. That was corny. He cursed and I failed at holding back a giggle. There you are. He said, tilting my head up. Kaken, I said in almost a whisper. Hate to admit it, but I missed that dumbass nickname. He said with a dry chuckle and I shook my head, laughing a bit. Oh, yeah. I gave him a goofy smile, tilting my head. Katsuki bit his bottom lip before looking down at mine. He grabbed my chin with his thumb and pointer finger before pulling me forward and leaning down. Yeah, he purred, his lips only centimeters away from mine. Oh. I smiled, patting his cheek and opening the door before stepping out, closing it behind me. Come on, the bell is about to ring. Right after I said that, it rang. Right on cue. Katsuki frowned and got out the car. I locked the doors before jogging to his side. We're going to be late. He grumbled. You chose to dive into my car. I retorted and he rolled his eyes. Why'd you parked so damn far? He whined. I like being late and pissing off sensei. Obviously. The late bell rung when we walked through the classroom doors. Aizawa gave us a pointed look and I shrugged. Bakugo, why are you late? He asked, bluntly glaring at the blonde who gaped at him. I chuckled and made my way to my seat. He was late too. He pointed to me as I propped my feet up on the desk. I gave my teacher an amused look. He's always late. Aizawa said back. That doesn't explain why you're late. He then adds. I was walking with him. I didn't know he parked his car so far until the bell rang. Katsuki gritted out in anger. Aw, he's mad. Whatever, just don't be late again and go to your seat. Same for you, Midoriya, stop being late. Aizawa warned before starting the lesson. Katsuki slouched down in his seat, crossing his arms. Muscles. I poked his bicep. He turned to me with a glare. I smiled sweetly at him. His face softened and he turned to face Aizawa. Hey Midobro. Kirishima waved to me as I grabbed my lunch. I didn't have much time to make my lunch after making Izumi's, so I settled for school lunch. Hey guys. I sat down next to Katsuki, who was glaring at his phone. Oh, never mind, that's just his resting beach face. Every Friday we have an annual sleepover at the dorms, Kaminari said excitedly as Mina bounced in her seat. Wait. We play lots of games and have challenges. You should come, what do you say? It sounds like a lot of fun, but I don't feel like it's safe to leave Izumi at home alone with Ma at the moment. And I don't want her causing a ruckus for Mitsuki and Masaru. I don't know, I'll think about it, yeah. I said with a smile. They all nodded, except Katsuki. He's just staring at me. It's like he can see right through me, it's creepy. Stop staring at me. I muttered, looking down at my food. He snakes an arm around my hip and pulls me closer to his side. What's the matter? He asked softly. I looked up at him. He's looking down at me with a look of concern. I sighed. Do you know about our mom's argument? I ask and he nods, turning away. Yeah, I went to visit the old hag yesterday and she looked horrible. He said, knitting his brows. What happened to Auntie Inko? He questioned, turning to me. I open my mouth then closed it again. I look away. She's just still in the mourning process, that's all. I whispered the last part. Izuku. I turned to see Katsuki giving me a stern look. He doesn't believe me. I don't want to talk about it. I shrug, he nods. You know you can take Izumi if you want. I don't think anybody would mind her being there. Katsuki spoke. I'll think about it. I reply. I scoot away from him, taking a bite out of my ramen. Katsuki sighs before giving me one last look before returning his attention back to his phone. I feel a small tug on my pinky and look down to see him entwining our pinkies together. I peer up at him and he's still staring down at his phone, a small smile tugging at his lips. That's all today, you're dismissed. Aizawa said bluntly before turning his attention to me. Except you, Midoriya, stay after class. He said, and I huffed, sitting back in my chair and crossing my arms. I stood up once everyone left the classroom and walked up to Sensei Aizawa's desk. He just stood there watching me as I glared at him. The hell is up with him? Is there something going on at home? He suddenly spoke up, making me flinch slightly at the forward question. How the hell, what? I questioned as my heart rate picked up. You had a bruise on your cheek a few days ago and claimed that it was your sister's doing, but I don't think that's the case. After your breakdown in the hallway and staying out too late, you didn't come to school yesterday. You have a cut on your forehead that wasn't there before, and when you stretched earlier your shirt raised up a bit, revealing a fresh bruise. He explained accurately. I stood there stunned. I don't know how I'm supposed to get out of this. I can't straight up tell him my mom is an alcoholic and hit me. They'll arrest her and she's the only parent we have. I almost made a promise to Dad. I can't break it. So I get mad. What the F? Nothing's going on at home. I just fell. I spluttered. It was hard for me to maintain eye contact because I hate lying to people, but I have to. Just mind your goddamn business, Eraserhead. I sneered before storming out the classroom. He can't find out. Nobody can. Only when I hear the door slam open and his desperate calls for me to come back, I pick up my pace. I run to my car and hopped in before pulling out and speeding out of the school's parking lot. Good thing tomorrow is Saturday, maybe he'll forget about this by Monday. I pull into Izumi's preschool to see her waiting outside with Togata and Tyson. I'm 10 minutes late. I park and hop out the car. When Izumi saw me, she smiles and began running up to me. Zuzu, I thought you forgot about me, she said as I picked her up and wrapped my arms around her. Never, Izzy, I said softly. I put Izumi on my hip and turned to Togata with a warm smile. Thanks for standing out here with her, I said, and she shook her head with a chuckle. No problem, it's my job after all, she said happily. I looked down at a mini version of Togata who had his arms wrapped around her thigh, hiding slightly behind her. I kneeled down and held my hand out to him. You must be Tyson. I'm Izumi's older brother, Izuku Midoriya, I say politely. He smiles and shakes my hand. I stood back up and took Izumi's hand in mine. Well, we're off. See you tomorrow, I said, waving at Togata and Tyson. Bye, Miss Togata. But Izumi shouted, waving frantically at the two. I helped Izumi into her car seat and she decided to buckle herself in. I got into the car and drove off to the house. After screaming lyrics to different songs, I decided to turn it down and speak up. Izumi, I said sternly. She stopped singing and looked at me through the review mirror. I was invited to a sleepover tonight, I told her. She stayed quiet for a second before speaking up. You should go, Zuzu. I'll stay home with Mama, she said with a bright smile, but I could tell it was fake. I don't feel comfortable leaving you with her when she's drinking the stinky stuff, I said as she frowned. I'm a big girl, Zuzu. I'll stay in your room with the door locked. I know how to turn movies on the TV, and I could eat the snacks that are in your bottom drawer, she briefly said. I furrowed my brows. How'd you know about those? Were you the one stealing my chips and candy, Izzy? I questioned, giving her a playful glare. She giggled, hiding her face from the mirror. I'm just kidding, you can have them whenever you want, I said happily, and she smiled. Zuzu, when will I be able to see Auntie and Uncie again? She asked, tilting her head. I sighed. I was thinking about taking you there tonight, but I don't want Ma causing problems for them again, I said sadly. Izumi frowned a bit. Maybe I just won't go, I mumbled, and Izumi shook her head viscously. No, Zuzu. I don't want to be the reason you don't have fun, she pouted. Izumi, I pull into the driveway. I turned my body to face her, giving her a serious look. Your safety is much more important than some stupid sleepover, you hear me? She nods. I'll let you stay home, but you do not open that door under any circumstances, do you hear me? She flinched when I cussed but nodded regardless. I don't usually cuss around Izumi, but I want her to know that I'm dead serious. Here, I opened the middle compartment and handed her my old phone. If anything happens, you call me, okay? How do you spell my name? Z. I nod. You call that number if anything, and I mean anything happens. If you feel unsafe, call me. If Ma starts banging on the door, call me. If you hear any other voice other than mine or Ma's, call me. If you feel overwhelmed or the slightest bit sick, call me. Do you understand me, Izumi? I said sternly, not taking my eyes off her. She nods again. If you don't want me to go to the sleepover, or if you want me to come back home for any reason, even if you just want me with you, you tell me, capiche? Capiche? Ma was sleeping per usual when we walked through the door. We quietly made it to my bedroom. I closed and locked the door behind me. Izumi made herself comfortable on my bed as I sighed, going through my drawers for pajamas. I decided on black and gray plaid pajama pants and a green oversized t-shirt. I walked into my bathroom and turned on the shower, waiting for it to warm up before getting in. After taking a shower, I moisturized, did my face care routine, and changed. While Izumi munched on some rice ball I made, I did my homework before it was finally time to leave. I recently got some text messages asking if I was coming, but I decided to surprise them when I got there. I packed some morning essentials and draped my backpack on my shoulder before grabbing my phone and car keys. Izzy, I said, walking up to her, and she stood up on my bed before wrapping her arms around me. Remember everything I told you? I asked. Everything. She confirmed. I nodded, kissing her cheek and hugging her one last time before leaving. I hold her temples in my hand as she puts her tiny hands on mine. Call if you need anything, okay? I love you. I'll see you first thing tomorrow morning. I kiss her forehead. Okay, I love you. She replies. I make sure the door is locked and that she had plenty of food. I also made sure she had her midnight stuffy, because I know that she'll make me turn the car around if she finds out that she's not with her. I leave through my window so I don't wake Ma up and quietly make my way the parked car. Before getting in, I take a deep breath, looking up at the setting sky above. Please, give us a break. Izuku's POV, Midobro, you made it. Hey guys. I shut the doors behind me and slipped my shoes off. Come on, everyone's waiting in the living room. Mina beamed, grabbing my hand and pulling me into the chaotic room filled with loud chatter, arguing, and explosions. I could already guess who it's from. Shut it, half and half. The blonde spoke angrily, releasing small explosions from his palms. You know I'm right, Bakugo. The 𝗏 simply said. Looks like he made it, 𝗧𝗏 said towards me. Everyone in the room began to greet me and say that they're glad I could make it. To start off the night, let's begin with a challenge. For the next few hours or so were spent with us doing challenge, playing board games. Just so you know, Katsuki is a sore loser. He got mad because I kept making him draw 4 in Uno. He ended up losing to everyone because of how many cards he had. Let's have a cooking challenge. I call Bakubro on my team. Kaminari announced. Every agreed and began picking sides. Katsuki tugged on my hand and tried walking me to his side, but I twisted my hand away. What's wrong? He asked, tilting his head. I shook my head. Nothing, I replied, walking to the opposite side. I looked over my shoulder and smirked. My team against yours. I said loudly. Mina, Kaminari, Kirishima, Jiro, 𝗧𝗏, and Shoji on Bakugo's team. Ida, Uraraka, Todoroki, Yaoyorozu, and Tokoyami on Midoriya's team. Aoyama, Sato, Hagakure, and Koda being the judges. Third-person POV. I'm sorry. While the judges went to play another board game in the other room, both teams raced to the fridge, screaming and arguing over who gets what. All hell broke loose. Bakugo exploding everyone left and right, even his own teammates. Mina and Kaminari arguing over what to cook for the judges. Kirishima sheepishly trying to calm Bakugo down as Bakugo screamed at him and threw an explosion at his face, making him harden his skin. Shoji was just standing aside, calmly waiting for everyone to settle down. 𝗧𝗏 was trying to take a carton of milk from Todoroki as he continuously said, "No," holding the carton away from him. Jiro and 𝗬 were racing to the pantry. 𝗬 wrapped her tongue around Jiro and threw her across the room. Before Jiro landed on the sofa behind her, she used her earjacks to wrap around 𝗬's hair and yank her back away from the pantry. Uraraka was floating some of the pots and pans they needed as Momo tried to gather her team together because she had an idea. Iida was chopping everywhere, throwing orders, telling everyone that they were acting irrationally and to calm down. Nobody listened. "Enough!" a voice shouted while pans clashed together repeatedly. Everyone stopped and turned to source of the sound. It was Midoriya standing on counter with a pan in each hand. When he saw that he got everyone's attention, he hopped off the counter. "Why don't we just rock, paper, scissors for it? The winning team gets a 1-minute head start to choose what they want," he said with a shrug. "Yeah, that's a good idea." Kaminari agreed, rubbing the back his head sheepishly with one eye open. Soon everyone started to agree. "Great. Come here, Kakin." Midoriya spoke with a smirk, using his pointer finger to gesture the blonde over. The blonde sauntered over to the brunette standing directly in front of him. He scowled while taking his hands out of his pockets, FSNG his right hand over his left. Midoriya did the same. "Rock, paper, scissors, shoot." Bakugo had paper. Midoriya had scissors. "I want a redo." The blonde raged as the Midoriya's team cheered in triumph. "Nope. No redos." Uraraka said happily, draping her arm over Midoriya's shoulder with a sporting grin. The blonde growled. "You're mad." Midoriya stuck his tongue out at the raging blonde while pointing at him. "F off, nerd," he yelled before storming off with his group following suit. Midoriya giggled, turning to face his teammates. "Your minute starts now." 𝗧𝗏 hollered from the common room. The minute was over and it's been 20 minutes since they started cooking. They group already has all the things they need, thanks to Momo and Dark Shadow. "Hey guys, say cheese." Uraraka beamed, floating above everyone with the front camera on her phone facing everyone as she smiled at the camera. Iida, who was cleaning the dishes, turned to scold Uraraka for not helping with the food as Momo looked up from cutting carrots and threw up 2 peace signs. 𝗬, who was standing on the counter, hopped off, turning and tilting her head slightly with her tongue sticking out the corner of her mouth. She put her finger on her cheek. Tokoyami just stood there, literally. Dark Shadow smiled at the camera with its arm draped over its owner's shoulder. Todoroki, who was stirring the food, stopped and turned the oven on low. He turned to stare blankly at the camera. Midoriya ran over to him and jumped on his back, smiling at the camera as Todoroki staggered forward. Midoriya balanced him, picking up 2 parts of his hair, holding it up, making them look like horns. Todoroki looked up at him. Izuku's POV. The room was filled with laughter and chatter from both teams. It's been almost an hour and we were wrapping our dishes up. The judges were moved into the dining room where the table was set as we got cups, bowls, and silverware out. Right when we were about to serve the food, my phone began to ring. I quickly WP'd out of my pocket, afraid that it was Izumi calling me because something was wrong, but my breath hitched. I saw it was her. "Ma is calling." I gulped before excusing myself out the room and answering the call. "Izuku, baby." Ma's soft voice rang. "She's sober." "Hey Ma, what's up?" I said calmly. "Where are you guys? I tried looking for y'all, but your door is locked and Izumi isn't in her room. Your car isn't parked in the driveway," she said softly. It sounded as if she was holding back tears. "We're at the dorms for a sleepover," I told the half-truth. "I'm hanging out with my classmates and Izumi is sleeping in Bakugo's dorm room." I explained briefly. I hear Ma sigh on the other side. "I thought you guys have left me." "Izuku, I am so sorry for the way I've treated you too. I was completely out of line. I promised to get help," she said, sobbing on the other side. My heart sunk. "It's okay Ma, just stop drinking, okay? Okay, Iza baby. You promise? Promise. We'll see you tomorrow. I love Y dash." Oh, she hung up. I furrowed my eyebrows and began dialing Izumi. Just to check up on her, she answered on the second ring. "Zuzu." I hear her whisper. I hum in response. "Hey Iz, I'm calling to check up on you. You alright?" I walked to peek around the corner. Todoroki turned to look my way, tilting his head, giving me a confused look. I hold my finger up and mouthed, "1 minute." He nodded before turning around and tapping on Uraraka's shoulder. Yes, Mama was knocking on the door. But not for long. She wasn't screaming or anything. She said briefly, "I know, she just called me. She's not drinking the bad stuff and promised not to from now on." I said to her, "Really?" I can hear the excitement radiating on the other side. "Really dash, Zuzu," she said. I hummed. I heard shuffling on the other side. "Somebody's here." My heart dropped. "Who?" "I don't recognize them. It's not Auntie or Auntie." "Izumi, get out the window," I said loudly. I heard more shuffling on the other end. "I'm scared, Zuzu," she whimpered. "Okay, hold on, I'll be there in a dash." I was cut off by a beep and the power cutting off. "Are you kidding me?" Izuku's POV. I tried turning my phone back on and the low battery sign popped up. I forgot to charge my phone when I got here. I cursed, running to the kitchen. It was filled with yelling and shrieks. "Will you all shut the hell up?" I said angrily. It got silent. Izuku-Kaminari charged my phone. I paused when I saw him in his thumb mode. I turned around to glare at everyone as Momo made candles and Todoroki lit them up with his quirk. "Oh, did?" I spat. "I don't have time for this. I need to get to my little sister. I need to make sure she's okay. If the power went off here, that means it's out everywhere." Everyone turned to Katsuki. Of course." He huffed and scowled at everyone. He was pissing me off. He snared. "I don't care. I don't have time for this," I shouted before running out the kitchen and out the front door. "Midoriya. Izuku." I ended up running all the way home. There was surely going to be traffic if I drove. There were random cars parked in the front of my house. I stopped upon reaching my front lawn and bent over to catch my breath. I quietly walked to my window and slid it open. I can hear quiet sobs in the distance. "Hey Izzy, it's me," I said softly. "Zuzu, where are you?" She hiccuped. I summoned my scythe and set the tip of it on fire, creating a light source. I then feel tiny arms wrap around my waist. I put my hand on her head. "It's okay, Izzy." It was a man's voice. I heard the door jiggle, and that's when you hung up and the lights turned off. I heard the voices get louder and the jiggle stop. She briefly explained. I walked to my drawer and pulled out a navy blue hoodie and an orange hoodie. I put the navy blue hoodie on Izumi and the orange one on me. The blue one was really big on Izumi as the orange one was on me. I pick up Izumi's doll and stepped out the window. I held my hands out for her. She puts her hands on my wrists as I lifted her out the room and onto my hip. I quietly closed my window, walking away from my house. Where are we going, Zuzu?" She yawned, shivering at the cold air. "Are you still cold?" I asked, ignoring her question. She shook for a bit longer before stopping. I feel heat radiating off of her. "No, not anymore," she replied, resting her head on my shoulder. I placed the hood over her head and rubbed her back. "Good, we're going to see Katsuki and the others," I said, walking down the dark, cold streets to the dorms. I felt Izumi go limp in my arms and knew that she was asleep. I nuzzled the side of my face in her hair. "She's so warm." Too warm. Finally, after a long walk, I made it to the dorms. I opened the door and closed it behind me. "Mido bro, is that you?" "Dude, why'd you run out like that?" Shut the hell up, will you?" I whispered, yelled as Izumi stirred in my arms. "Is that Izumi?" Mina asked as I took our shoes off. I nodded. "Yes, I had to get her from her friend's house. They got into a fight." I lied calmly, looking away. I glanced towards Katsuki to see him glaring right at me. "Oh, he knows." "Oh, was that why you freaked out?" Kaminari asked, and I nodded. "Katsuki, where's your dorm? I'll lay her down in there." "I'll show you." "Hey Midoriya, everyone's heading to bed and Ida, Todoroki and I want to stay up longer, so we'll be in my dorm if you want to join," Uraraka said. I nodded. "Sure, I'll be there." I smiled as the elevator dinged and the doors began to close. I stood awkwardly beside Katsuki, looking away and patting Izumi's back as she slept. "You were lying." He spoke. "What, are you, a detective?" I spat, glaring at him. Izuku, I'm worried. I saw how freaked out you were. Just tell me what's wrong. He said softly. I scoffed and turned away. I don't have anything to tell you. I mumbled. You're lying again. He grumbled. Why don't you just mind your 𝗕𝗏𝗏 business? I snapped and walked out the elevator as the doors opened. I only took 3 steps before stopping and turning to the stunned blonde behind me. Where do we go next? I mumbled quietly, looking down at the floor. He gestured for me to follow him and walked to the second to last door at the end of the wall. He took out a card and scanned the door before opening it. He opened the door and walked in with me trailing behind him. He sat the lit candle on his desk. I walked to his bed and laid Izumi down, tucking her in as Katsuki pulled a futon from under his bed. I kiss Izumi on her temple before whispering her a good night and making my way to the door. When I touch the handle, I feel a hand wrap around my wrist. Izuku, Katsuki breathed. I lifted my hand off the handle and turned to face him. I kept my gaze on the floor, twisting my wrist out of his grip. He put his hand on my cheek and lifted my head to meet his gaze. I'm sorry I made you upset. I shouldn't have pushed you. He apologized, biting his bottom lip. He's nervous. I sighed. It's okay, you were just worried. I said softly. I hear him let out a sigh of relief. He began to rub soothing circles with his thumb. I lean into the touch. Moments like these are what I've longed for while being a touch-deprived teenager for almost 2 years. I never thought that the simple things like being hugged by someone you love/like, or in my case liked, could make such a big impact. Can I kiss you? He suddenly asked. If he asked me this a week ago, I would push him away and punch him in the face. But now I nod. He smiled softly and placed his other hand on the nape of my neck, tilting my head up and leaning in. I wrap my arms around his neck and stand on my tippy toes. Someone knocked on the door. Katsuki growled lowly as I tried to muffle a giggle into his chest. He pulls me behind him and yanks the door open, glaring at whoever ruined our moment. Is Midoriya? No. And with that he quietly closed the door. He knows I'll kill him if he wakes my sister up. He turns back around and wraps his arms around my waist as his head lands on my shoulder as he pouts. There. I say, patting his head. He grunted. Who was it? It was 𝗕𝗏𝗏. He grumbled. Oh yeah, I should get going, when I said that it only made him pout more. But before that, I grab his face and pull it towards mine, connecting out lips. The kiss only lasted a few seconds before I pull away. Izuku bye Kaken, I said happily before sprinting out the room and to the elevator. Finally. Ida went to check if you were still in Bakugo's dorm, and he shut the door in his face. Uraraka laughed. Hey yeah, sorry about that. I said sheepishly, scratching the back of my head. You have nothing to apologize for, Midoriya. It's Bakugo who should apologizing. Ida said sternly, pushing his glasses up. Will you be sleeping in Bakugo's dorm tonight, Midoriya? Tsu asked. I nodded. Yep, since my sister is sleeping in there, I replied, sitting on the futon on next to Todoroki. Oh Midoriya, tell us about how you and Bakugo met. Yeah, it seems like you two know each other pretty well, Karo. I told them about how me and Katsuki were childhood friends, and when I was 13 I moved to America with Ma. I also told them about my friends, training, and dad. It's been a couple of hours and Uraraka was showing me a game on her iPad. Ida was laying next to me fast asleep. Todoroki was laying on the other side of me watching as Uraraka explained the game intently. The two girls were laying on their stomachs on the end of the bed, Tsu chiming in a few times on the explaining. After playing for a while, everyone got tired and decided to call it a night. Tsu and Ida, since he was asleep, were going to stay the night in Uraraka's room. Todoroki and I said our good nights and left the room and to the elevator. So, what happened at the party with Tana? I asked as the elevator dinged and closed. I confessed. He stated. I grinned giddily. What did she say? I asked excitedly. He smiled. She was very nice and understanding of why I didn't want to tell her after I explained everything, he said. I smirked. So. He tilted his head. I rolled my eyes. Then what? We dance. Well, she danced, sorta. He said briefly, furrowing his brows a bit as he spoke. What do you mean? I chuckled. She wanted me to dance with her, but I didn't know how. He paused. So when an upbeat song came on, she shook her hips a lot and I kinda moved with her. He briefly explained. A light pink blush tinted his cheeks. Gosh, what song was it? I exclaimed, jumping giddily in place as the elevator dinged. He thought for a minute as we entered the next elevator to our floor. 𝗧𝗵𝗲, he said more like a 𝗧𝗵𝗲. My jaw dropped. We were in the circle and people surrounded us. She held my hand in the air and turned around while she was grinding on you. I asked shockingly. Grinding. He tilted his head and furrowed his brows. Never mind, continue. I mentally calmed myself down and listened to what he was going to say next. I tried moving with her, but I don't think I was doing it right. When she turned around, she pulled me down and whispered in my ear, "Keep on reading the signs of my body." And did you? I questioned, leaning forward towards him. Yes. I squealed, jumping up and down. He was taken aback and looked at me crazy. She said she had a surprise for me Monday. He said as the elevator dinged. You better tell me what it is. I said, teasingly, bumping him as we walked down the dark, quiet halls. I'll make sure, he replied, stopping in front of what I'm guessing his dorm room. Good night, Todoroki, I waved happily. Good night, Midoriya, he said before closing his door. I didn't realize how tired I was until then. I yawned and walked to Katsuki's room sluggishly. I opened the door and quietly closed it behind me. I walked to the bed and crawled under the blankets next to Izumi. She stretched and reached over to feel me. When she didn't, she shot up, looking around, about to cry. Shoo, I'm right here, 𝗬𝗵𝗲, I said softly, pulling her to my chest. Where are we? She asked groggily. Katsuki's bed. I yawned. Where is he? She questioned. On the floor. I answered slowly, closing my eyes. But this is his bed. She pouted. If this girl don't go to sleep. Izumi, close your eyes and keep them closed, babe. I whispered with a yawn. I want Yuki, she yawned, sitting up and rubbing her eyes. This little Katsuki, get your butt up here, I said annoyingly, throwing a pillow down at him. I got a groan in return. The hell? He sighed sleepily and I looked down to see him stretch one arm while covering his eyes with the other. Where did the pillow go? Get it? I was cut off by a pillow hitting me in the face. I heard a little giggle from beside me and turned to glare at Izumi. Don't wake me up like that again, nerd. He groaned, moving his hand to glare at me. Whatever, just get up here, I grumbled, throwing my head down on the pillow and covering my face with the blanket. I feel a small peck on my forehead. Night night, Zuzu, I hear Izumi say softly. The last thing I felt was my body being pulled against another before letting sleep consume me.